Bring Improvement Services Committee to order. Let it be recorded that Johnson, Nicholson, Burnett, and Wery are present. I need approval of the agenda.
To approve.
Motion by Johnson, second by Wery. Under discussion here, none, all in favor.
Aye.
Nays, motion carried. Approval of the minutes.
So approved.
Motion by Johnson, second by Burnett. Under discussion here, none, all in favor.
Aye.
Nays, motion carried. Okay, we're in regular order of business. Number one, consideration of possible action on request by David Wheezy, okay, to rescind a bulk waste removal charge of $80 at 327 North Ashland Avenue. Mr. Wise.
Yes. Yeah, they sent me.
Can you state your name and address for the record, please?
David Wisey.
Okay.
Last two letters of the alphabet.
All right. 325 North Ashland, you live?
That's where the property is.
Okay, where do you
That's
live?
my shop. I live in Pulaski,
Okay.
but they got on the
Okay.
letter they had it down. This is my business there.
Okay.
And that house at 327 that they said they picked up the garbage, it wasn't 327, it was 325 should have been. I told them about it.
Chairman.
and-
This has 335.
Or 335 is where my shop is, yeah.
Okay, is this where the garbage was picked
It
up?
was picked up at well, actually it was on the boundary line.
Mr.
at
Chairman.
325.
Just
I'd
wanna
make a
make-
motion- I'm gonna make a motion to open the floor.
Okay.
Second.
Okay,
What's that?
floor is now open by, motion by Wery, second by Johnson. Okay, continue.
Okay. They had down 327.
Okay,
They picked up the garbage at 325. It was right on the borderline between 327 and 325.
okay,
327 is my rental, but the people that threw out the mattress and stuff were at 325.
okay. And what's this 335? That's your shop?
That's my shop, yes.
Okay, this is rental. All right. Okay. Is that all you have to offer, or?
Yeah, it wasn't my garbage, so I don't see why I should have to pay $80.
Okay. Any questions? If not, Steve, Director Grenier?
As Mr. Weezy indicates, we did pick a mattress up. Based on the photograph, it does appear to be near the lot line between 327 and 325, but nearer to 327. So that's the address that was identified by staff in the field on the day that they picked the mattress up.
Okay.
All we received was a letter from Mr. Weezy indicating that it was not put there by us and he wanted to come before Improvement and Service Committee, so we placed him on the agenda. We probably could have had this conversation offline without having to come before the committee, but he requested to come to committee, so we honored that request.
Move to close the
We
floor.
did call in.
Just 1 second.
That's my wife.
Okay, does she want to speak?
You want to speak?
Okay, just approach, yep, approach the bench. Just state your name and address for the record, please.
Patricia Wisey, 4117 County Road C, Pulaski.
Okay,
Okay, I had called in and I talked to Debbie and told her that it wasn't our stuff, our mattresses on the borderline, and she said the only way that they could do anything is you should come here and dispute it.
okay, thank
So I
you.
talked to my renters and they said that they seen the ones at 325 put it out there. So there shouldn't have been no, and we told them about this, that we didn't feel like we should pay
Okay.
for it.
Is there any priors?
There is one,
Just 1 second, ma'am. Director Grenier, any priors?
I'm not showing any at this point.
Okay. Usually, you give one freebie out,
Yep.
and then if there's another one, why wouldn't Debbie say anything? Why wouldn't she look that up?
I don't know. Operations Director Pierlot and I will be having a conversation this
Okay,
morning.
all right, enough said. So you recommend,
We're fine.
okay.
Move to
Well,
close
then-
the floor.
Yes, we're gonna close the floor right now. Okay, you can just have a seat, please. Yep. Motion by Johnson, close the floor, second by Worry, under discussion here, none, all in favor, nays, motion carried. What are the wishes of the committee? Motion to rescind by Johnson, second by Worry, under discussion. Here, none, all in favor, nays, motion carried. Mr. Weezy, it's rescinded,
Oh,
okay?
Thank you.
Right.
All right? You may go, or you can
Oh, okay.
stick around,
Thank you.
enjoy the entertainment, I guess. All right, thank you. All right, moving forward. Number 2, consideration of possible action on request by MUA to rescind the long grass charges of $301.73 at 619 Pine Terrace and $219.44 at 617 Pine Terrace.
Zia Moore,
Okay.
Zoma Homes LLC. Do you need my address also?
Yes, please.
542 Van Wright Court, Green Bay, 54311.
Motion to open the floor.
Okay, there's a motion to open the floor by Worry, second by Johnson, under discussion, here none. All in favor? Nays was carried. Okay, you can continue.
Okay, so anyway, I'm asking to resend these invoices. I don't know how the process will be. We have copies of what I have submitted to Chris. But basically, the envelope was postmarked on June 6th. The letters were handwritten the end of May, but postmarked June 6th. I received it on the 7th. So 7 days from June 6th puts me at June 13th. Despite the discrepancy, I contacted Dan of the discrepancy, and I was on vacation. And I remember very clearly, and I have proof with my phone log that I contacted Dan, that informing him of this, the discrepancy, but
Who's Dan?
Dan.
City employee?
yeah, he
Okay.
looks at the, whatever I call the 3,300, they transfer me
Right.
to the department. So I told him that I was on vacation, but certainly I will have it done by Tuesday when I'm back. And Monday, 9th or 10th, we went out and the lawns were cut already. So really, technically, I have till June 13th that I we went out there on the 10th, it was cut already.
Okay.
So, so that's the reason why I didn't have 7 days.
Okay.
So I'm asking you to rescind.
Okay. Mr. Pirlat?
Yeah,
Again,
Ms. Mua and I have spoken several times. Dan Schimick is our DPW supervisor who leads our long grass and weed day-to-day operations.
Okay.
And he was on vacation and I was on vacation, and we had a chance. Dan and I work out the same site, so after personally interviewing him, talking to him, and understanding what was going on, Ms. Moon and I had talked. There's some confusion or misunderstanding. I'm not going to, nitpick on that. Dan's notes and his testimony to me said that he spoke with Ms. Moon on June 4th. Now, she didn't get the letters until the 6th, but there was some, as I understand, there's some type of communications in between. She indicated that she spoke with Dan on Friday, June 7th. I checked phone records. He only had one phone call out from his phone because he nodded to me. So I looked further and it's like, oh, Dan was not here on Friday. So it had to be before the 7th that there was discussion. Regardless of that, because of the confusion, the grass was quite tall, so it took some time for the grass to get to that height. We also had a delay in actually getting to address the issue, which is on us, that's on DPW. One of my thoughts is because of the confusion on both sides, I would suggest we do a King Solomon and split the baby, where DPW writes off one of them and the property owner pays for the other one. That's one of my thoughts.
Okay. All
And
right.
just for the.
Steve?
Just for the committee, the reason that this was handled the way it is with the letter is because it is a vacant property. If it was an occupied property, we would take care of business probably within 24 hours. But with the rulings being what they are in a vacant property, there's no place for us to tag the property, so we have to send a letter.
You got pictures, Steve?
This is the length of the grass. This is why Mr. Pirlat says it didn't get that way overnight.
Where's Pine Tree, or Pine, is that west side?
Yeah, it's on the corner of
Oh,
Burns
yeah.
Avenue and Pine
Okay.
Terrace.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the grass was well in excess of a foot in length.
Hmm. Okay, just 1 second. Any questions from the committee for Ms. Moore?
Maybe, no, I don't.
Burnett, you got a question?
Yeah,
For Ms. Moore?
So you said that you had 7 days to correct the action,
According
is
to
that per the letter?
letters. Yep, according to the letters.
Okay, and is that 7 days from the date of the letter?
And that's what they said, from the days of the letter, but again, I think that in all fairness to the consumer, to us, especially when it's handwritten, anyone could predate, and I'm not saying that they are predated, and I'm just saying that anyone can write anything. What matters is that when it goes out, when I as a consumer received it, and I do acknowledge what happened was I took over these lots over the winter, and I totally forgot about it. Totally forgot that I owned those lots, because I planned on putting 5 beautiful homes in the area, but as the weather, as we all know, everything got delayed, and I totally forgot that I had those lots until I received this letter. But the fact still remains that I did not receive it till the 7th. And even despite that, I knew that right away that it was dated May 29th, but it was not sent out till June 6th. So because of that, really, he really didn't give me any time to cut it. Now, as far as the June 4th, I pulled up my phone record. There is no record of the city ever calling me on June 4th. My other question would be, where would Dan get my phone number from? Okay, so, and that's why I feel that that is very inaccurate, but I have proof when I contacted Dan, and that was on June 7th at 9:28 from Florida. So, the facts pretty much speaks for itself, so, I'm requesting to rescind both of them, because I feel that it's really unfair to me. First, the discrepancy in the dates and the mailing, and then secondly, I didn't call him to bring that to his attention, and I did go out on Monday night. My lawnmower guy went out on Monday night only to find out it was cut.
Okay.
So there clearly was a miscommunication in their department, because Dan said they will communicate that to the department, make sure they don't go and cut it. Clearly, there was some miscommunication somewhere in their part, and now I feel that I should not have to pay for it because of their miscommunication.
Alderman Burnett?
Yeah.
And then Worry.
Thank you, Chair. I want it to be known that I'm a personal acquaintance of Ms. Mula, so I'll have to abstain in the absence of the city attorney. But
All right.
if I could vote, I would vote to rescind those. She's somewhat of a high character, and I don't dispute at all what she's saying. It might be a miscommunication between the city and Ms. Mula. And she is a reputable business person, as is her family, very involved in the community. I think these are situations where we have to, err on the side of the constituent property owner, in my opinion. So I just want that to be known.
Thank you.
Alderman Worry?
Thank you. Yeah, I do have a couple questions. Is this in a residential area? Are there other houses?
Residential, yeah. It's the old Munfile estate, and I purchased, originally it was 3 lots, and I came through the city process. I converted to 5 lots, and I'm going to be developing 5 single families in the area. So the residential right in front of the Munfile's estate.
I mean, obviously foot long, the pictures make it
Right,
look
and
like
like
a
we
wheat field.
said, I acknowledge, because like I said, I purchased it over the winter, and I totally, because I built homes, and I totally forgot that I owned those lots until I received those letters. So that I acknowledge, but again, as soon as I received on it, as soon as I could, I got the grass cut out there. But despite that, the fact still remains that I did not get these letters till the 7th. It was, it was postmarked on the 6th. So, I guess, I've had a long relationship with the city, working in the rental, home building, as a real estate agent. I really question these methods of sending these letters out handwritten. And I guess, that just really bothers me that it's handwritten, but yet it was not sent out till June 6th. And even despite that, I called that right away, and I even call from my vacation, because my secretary called and brought it to my attention. And I was afraid of the miscommunication. I contacted Dan, and he was real nice about it. I said, yeah, no problem, I'll make sure to let the department know, make sure no one goes out to cut it. And I kept my word, got my guys out there Monday night, and it was too late, so.
Any other questions? Mr. Johnson? I guess my 2 cents would be, you know, the grass is what, over a foot long?
Well over.
Well over a foot. I guess one of my pet peeves is when we have the area I represent, there's something over a foot long. To me, that's not responsible. You have a responsibility for your properties. So does everybody else that owns property in the city of Green Bay. You'll never see a 1.5 feet in my yard. We shouldn't see it at all. The facts are not about the phone calls, in my opinion. The facts are you gotta take care of your property. If the city has to go over there, charge you X amount of dollars, so be it. Take care of your property. That's my opinion. I do not want to wheel and deal. I'm just like Miss Moore. I think she should be paying both citations. Not one, working out deals. She's a real estate agent. Okay, you might be a very reputable citizen in the city of Green Bay, then take care of your property, like the majority of the people in the city of Green Bay. Because if they don't take care of their property, they're gonna get fees, charges, so be it. So I will support the 2 citations of $301.73 and also $219.44. And maybe Ms. Moore, you'd get the message that you should be more responsible on your properties of 1.5 feet of grass. Really, I could see, I'm not gonna argue with you, 11 inches, that's the ordinance, correct, Steve? 9 inches. 9 inches is too much. People should be on top of that a heck of a lot earlier than 1.5 feet. That's my 2 cents. I'll be supporting the 2 citations or fees. And do you have any other rebuttal,
I do have a
Ms. Moore?
question. Steve, do you have proof that because when I got out there, the grass was all cut? I have a hard time believe that it was, what did you say, over a foot? Because those pine trees, that corner, it's all lined with pine trees. And how I know is because because it's on a corner lot, it's interesting that the lots on Pine Terrace was cut, but the 3 lots on Burns was not cut. So I was there to cut Burns side, and it was not a foot, I can tell you that. I think it's pretty much common sense that it's all under pine trees, and how can you get over?
The distance from the curb, from the gutter to the top of curb is 6 inches. That's a standard.
Okay, right?
That is at least twice that height, possibly 3 to 4 times, which would put it at 1.5 to 2
Okay.
feet.
I think we have enough discussion. I want to close the floor, please. Motion to close the floor by Johnson, second by Weary. Under discussion? Hear none. We're under discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry, not for closing.
Okay. All in favor? Nays, motion carried. Alderman Johnson?
I just do have a question for staff. So we have does the ordinance dictate that once we give them, send in that letter, that they have 7 days to correct? Is that the way it's written?
Correct, for absent property owners or vacant lots. Now, my understanding, talking to Dan, is that he spoke, I don't know if you called him or he called you,
I called
but
him.
the 2 of you spoke together, and it was, as his notes say, June 4th, which was before those letters were received. Now, just getting back to the handwritten, just as an FYI, that's the way we do it. When you handwrite it, that is Dan's signature. I can vouch for that, 110%. So it's not a falsified record. He wrote it on the 29th. There was some delay in getting it out for whatever reason, or getting postmarked by the 6th. But he says he talked to you. There was an agreement that it would be cut by the end of the day on Friday, the 7th. He said that includes that, give them the weekend. They went out there on Monday. He said, and it still wasn't cut, so they cut it. DPW.
But it's 1.5 feet.
Right.
Really?
But does
like
the-
I said, I'm sorry, go ahead, Johnson.
Does
Alderman
the
Johnson.
ordinance dictate what communication method must be made with the property owner? Does a
State
phone call
statute does.
suffice?
State statute.
State statute, does the phone call meet
It
that
says by
standard?
postal, by post.
Okay, so really what we're talking about then by postal is we're talking about June 6th, right? Because that's when it was mailed. So she had until the 13th, would that be correct?
Not necessarily, because staff wouldn't know that there was a delay in the mailroom in getting it out. All we have, the only information we have, is the date that we sent the letter down.
In addition, there was a discussion, and I have no reason to doubt it. Dan's been with us a long time. He's a reputable leader and manager in public works. That there was an agreement of some sort made that it would be cut by date X, and it wasn't. So we went the Monday after and cut it because it
Okay.
wasn't cut.
And I guess, I mean, I have a hard time going on with the delay with the post office, meaning like, I mean, much like we.
Post office, that could have happened in the mailroom here at City Hall.
Well, then that's on us. I mean, if the letter didn't go out, right? Just because we wrote it doesn't serve
No,
the standard of the
What I'm
statute.
stating is, we would not have known that, so we would be operating off of May 29th
Oh,
as the
sure.
original date. So June 10th would have provided more than sufficient.
Yeah, no, and I do appreciate that, Steve. Yeah, I mean, you guys were acting in accordance with what you presumed to be
Right.
when the letter was sent out.
Yes,
And I think,
that's all I'm trying
yeah,
to.
yeah, no, and I think as a body, we have to consider the June 6th postmark. But again, I appreciate, yeah, that you guys did what would be expected. So I just wanted to get clarity on that point. Thank you, Chris.
Anything
Can I
else,
say
Johnson?
something more?
No. Anything else, Johnson?
No.
Chris, do you want, Alderman Murray?
Yeah, thank you,
Yep.
Mr. Chairman. Just as an aside, the pictures and information you have, even on the previous item, were they supposed to be in our agenda? Because there's just a blank item. I don't know if
No,
anybody else has that.
historically, we've not included that, but if you want us to in the future, we
If you
definitely
could,
can.
because I like to do prep work for
Sure.
committees and kind of get an idea of what's coming up rather than having to digest it all right away.
No,
If
we'll
that'd be
make
just,
that,
if you can attach it, whatever.
we'll make that known.
Thanks. I mean, obviously, there's negligence with the grass. I mean, we get complaints on that all the time, and it's hard to explain to people. On the other hand, though, technicalities here, it seems like there's some timing technicalities that are problematic, so I know I'm leaning towards either, wiping it all out or half. I think just because of the technicality here. And are there any priors? It sounds like it was just bought in winter, so.
Yeah, we would have no priors on these properties.
This is probably the full growth of it, I think, from winter all the way to.
Correct. That's what
It was cut
it
off.
appears.
So I'm kind of hovering in there, based on the two, that it should have been cut, but we're also kind of messing up with our dates there, and if it got appealed, I don't know. Could be tricky.
Okay, do you want to make a motion, Chris?
No, I'd like to hear from the others.
Okay, well, a foot and a half, my opinion, is irresponsible. A foot and a half?
For what? Totally
I mean, we shouldn't have a foot and a half in the city of Green Bay and have staff go over there and babysit it and send notices and phone calls to real estate agents. They should be really on top of their property.
Totally agree. However, this is ruled by state statute, and therefore, if it would go to higher, that's what's going to rule the day, not what we want.
Okay, well then,
I-
let it
and I
go to
agree with
higher
you.
then.
I agree with you.
I like to make an example of this and put her foot down and say, foot and a half? I could see if it was 6 inches, 7 inches. Okay, I can understand that. A foot and a half? That's unreasonable. I can't, no, I'm not gonna budge on this. Johnson? Alderman
I agree.
Johnson?
I agree. I mean, like, I think that is the situation that exists, but I think we do have a standard to meet, and we didn't meet that standard per state statute, so I'm going to make the motion that we rescind the fees, and we'll let the votes fall where they fall,
Okay.
if there's a second.
Is there a second? Fails for a second.
Well,
Worried?
but
Just
my
a minute.
intention,
Just a minute. Chris, then I'll come
No,
back to
I
you.
was going to say, I'd make a motion to rescind half the fees.
So half of,
Yeah.
The
as-
total?
As requested or recommended by our director.
the half of the
Half of the
total?
total, yeah.
Okay. 1 second, Jesse. There's a motion on the floor to rescind half of the 2 fees combined, which is a total of, what is it, Steve? 301.
Second for you.
Okay, 301. Then I'll come back to you, Jesse.
20, 10, 260, 261, 261.
7, 11.
260.58.
Okay.
That's my motion.
Okay, we're under discussion. Alderman Burnett?
Yeah, I have already stated I'm going to be abstaining, that's why I did second, so I don't know what the legal rights I have to make seconds or votes or whatnot, but what what's that?
You can talk all you want.
I can
don't
talk,
think you
but
can motion.
not second or
Yeah.
whatnot, that's what I would have seconded Alderman Johnson's.
What I understand, the
motion.
chairman has the authority to entertain a
Either-
motion or a second.
Sure.
So I'll let you have a discussion, Jesse.
That's right, and I appreciate that. One thing I don't want to do, Mr. Chairman, is make it so that members of our community or constituents, homeowners, property owners are afraid to address the committee when they make a mistake. And you have your right and your prerogative, your opinion, but I think sometimes mistakes happen. People go out of town, vacations, people get sick, whether it be a foot and a half. Seal lives in a residential neighborhood, perhaps not in Green Bay, but I don't think that that's a standard that she would allow in her neighborhood, and so then I'm compelled to believe that's simply an oversight. And when oversights happen, because it's human nature, we have to soften our approach a little bit, but I'm not diminishing your opinion, Alderman. You've been doing this for a long time. You get the complaints a lot more than I do, perhaps, but I just don't want to have an adversarial approach between city government and the people who the government belongs to. So that'll let my opinions stand where they may.
Okay, well,
Question, Mr. Chairman.
go ahead,
Thank you.
go ahead.
Do we have any other history of any other properties from Ms. Mua of any long
We
grass
wouldn't
that
have
you know
looked at
of?
that.
We
Just
don't
off-
look at individual properties
I know.
and priors.
So, but off
It's
the
a
top of your
brand
head.
new owner, so that they're obviously priors.
Well,
So-
obviously out of loggerhead here, so.
Steve, what, a foot and a half for grass to grow, how long does that take? I know depending on the weather, but my yard, that'd be about 2 months,
Well, depending on,
so.
based off what we saw in the time of year that this occurred in June, my expectation was this was probably it probably hadn't been cut since the beginning of the year.
Okay. All right. All right, there's a motion on the floor. We're still under discussion. All in favor?
There's no second.
There's no
Oh,
second.
there's second. I'll second yours. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nays?
Nay.
One name,
Abstain.
one abstention. Ms. Moore, there's going to be, this is a recommendation, goes to full city council. I would probably recommend you be in there if you want to present this to the full city council, which is next Tuesday, 6 o'clock, right, Steve?
Yes.
In room 207, right next door. Okay? Thank you. Moving forward. Consideration of possible action on the request of Melissa Gibbert for permission to allow around-the-clock street parking adjacent to 326 12th Avenue for healthcare workers for her daughter. Is Melissa,
Motion open the floor?
motion to open on the floor by Johnson, second by Worry, under discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, nays, motion carried. Melissa Gebbert.
Yeah, I got health care providers. My daughter's severely autistic and she has seizures and a bunch of learning disabilities. And I have, she just got applied for long-term care through the county, where she's on the waiting list for that, so I will have night staff. I don't have night staff yet, but during the day is important. I was asking for private parking because our neighbors like to park there, so our staff can't park there. And it's a battle every day, and I have enough stress with my daughter's issues that I just don't need to fight with the neighbors either. So,
Do you live at 326?
Yes.
Okay. Chris, you want to handle it?
Yeah, Melissa and I have been in contact with each other for quite a while. Nice to meet you. On the phone and voicemails and what have you with email. Parking Division has done this type of thing in the past for in-home healthcare, different issues.
Mhm.
And in all my years with the city, I have to say, and this is no lie, that Ms. Giebert has been one of the most communicative to the Parking Division. I mean, she and her healthcare providers, when they switch shifts, we get the email, it's now the black Nissan, now it's the silver Honda in front of 3.
Good with it, Chris?
So, but the bottom line is, we have no problem whatsoever.
Okay.
And I recommend that we allow.
Thank you.
Motion to close the floor?
Yeah, just
Second.
any questions for, okay, motion to close the floor by Johnson, second by Weary, under discussion, here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays, motion carried. Now we are in regular order of business, I'll entertain motions, questions.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Johnson, second by Weary, under discussion.
Just one thing,
Director Grenier?
I don't think it needs to be part of the motion, especially seeing as she's here, but obviously this would not apply during emergency situations such as a snow emergency.
Okay. Any questions on that? Okay. All right. You got a question?
Ready to vote?
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Ayes, motion carried. You have your pass.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. 4, consideration of possible action on a request by Alderman Johnson on the authorization of the installation of a crosswalk art at the intersection of Broadway and Hubbard, held from July 10th. Alderman Johnson.
I maybe move to open the floor for interested parties.
Second.
Motion to open up the floor by Johnson, second by Weary, in discussion, here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays, motion carried. Come on up. Just state your name and address for the record, please.
Samantha Moss, W1942 Vandenberg Street, Freedom, Wisconsin, 54130. And I have some materials. So, you're welcome. As we had spoke about last meeting, we discussed the potential to install crosswalk art on the corner of Hubbard and Broadway in the Broadway district on the Hubbard Street intersection, so it would be running parallel to Broadway. And after that discussion, our two largest concerns from that meeting that I was asked to research and bring back to today's meeting is, for number one, the Federal Highway Administration interpretation letter for the application of colored pavement has specific criteria listed, and that is in this packet a little bit further back with the highlighted pieces. And then the second concern was fear of potential to lose federal funding if we were to install these crosswalk pieces. So after some digging around, reaching out to other communities in the U.S. and specifically in Wisconsin on how they were able to do crosswalk art in their communities as recently as this year and previous past years. The first piece that came to my attention was the Federal Highway Administration issues letters to create a guide for professionals when working with federal roadways. If you look at the maps, the Hubbard Street cul-de-sacs where the crosswalk art is proposed is classified as local roads, not federal roads. When talking to other communities who've done these types of projects, they have done crosswalk art on local roads, which is where they followed their state statute for the project because it was a local road and not a federal one. The Wisconsin statute defines marked crosswalks as any portion of a highway clearly indicated for pedestrian crossing by signs, lines, or other markings on the surface. And that ruling is listed right below with the highlighted piece. DPW professionals from other communities have let me know that they view crosswalk art as markings that help clearly indicate the pedestrian crossing area, so therefore following that same statement for the marked crosswalk. If you go to the next page, it has a sample of the map to show that the Hubbard Street is a local roadway as well. The other item that came to my attention when I was doing research on this topic was the legal interpretation of should denotes that something is advisable, while shall denotes that something is obligatory. The DOT traffic guidelines manual does not state shall next to the verbiage about the aesthetic treatment, the pavement treatment, or colors. So if you look below, it has the guidelines here. And it does say shall not, next to reflective material, shall be, shall have the 2 to 6 inch white transverse lines, similar to what we currently have. The aesthetic pavement colors and treatment have examples, but there is no verbiage of any shall where it must be this, or that. And there's an email just stating, reaching out about that legality of the interpretation of the verbiage. And then the last piece is when it comes to funding, I have not come across any examples of federal funding being taken away from communities that have installed crosswalk art, and neither has any of the other communities that I have reached out to. If we were to install crosswalk art in the proposed locations, it would again be on local roadways and not federal roadways. It would be paid for by on Broadway, which is a business improvement district, so it's not the city. So I guess I would beg to ask the question if doing something on a local roadway would matter to federal funding and federal decisions. There's a list of the different professionals that I have reached out to, including some other communities in Wisconsin, and I reached out to some of the DPW professionals as well. And then if you go to the very last 2 pages, I just thought it was convenient to see the City of Milwaukee DPW has decorative crosswalk permit specifications right on their website. And this is the application for doing these types of projects in Milwaukee, so you can see the different requirements that are very, very consistent to what we are asking to do with this project as well.
Anything else?
Nope.
Okay, any questions from the committee? Alderman Wery?
No, not right now.
Burnett?
No questions at the moment.
Director Janier?
To date, we still haven't received any indication whatsoever of what the crosswalk art is intended for. As we identified to you last month, in the document we provided to you, Federal Highways indicated that any agency knowingly violating the MUTCD risks losing federal funding for highway projects. The FHWA will not fund any projects or roadways which have non-compliant traffic control devices, and the withholding of funds potentially could go further than that. That has been clarified to mean that they could remove federal funding from any projects if we knowingly violate the MUTCD, even on a non-funded project. They view violation of the MUTCD as a violation, whether it's on a local street or a federal highway. As stated most recently in official ruling 309-24, which Ms. Moss also provided to you, crosswalk art is not permitted. And crosswalk art is identified as, in that official ruling, that's the memo that we provided to you from FHWA. No element of the aesthetic interior treatment can implement pictographs, symbols, multiple color arrangements, etc., or otherwise attempt to communicate with any roadway user. That means bicyclist, pedestrian, or motorist. The intent of the crosswalk is to denote the crosswalk. Nothing more, nothing less. I don't know how other communities are doing it. I don't know if they're rolling the dice. I did, after the last meeting, contact the city of Wausau to find out exactly how they were doing it. Their public works director, who is the head of the Board of Public Works in Wausau, had no idea that this information existed, so I forwarded on the 3 pieces of information that we provided to the committee last month. He reviewed them while we were on the phone, and his immediate response to me was, this changes things. We will probably have to convene the Board of Public Works and rescind any approvals and eradicate the existing crosswalks. They also haven't identified to me in that telephone conversation that the crosswalks did deteriorate in the course of a year, and they have no intent to renew them. So I can't speak to what others are doing. All I can speak to is my interpretation of what this means, my consultations with our traffic engineer and with the law department. MUTCD is the Bible for all traffic control devices, not only on local roads, but on state trunk highways to federal primary aid highways. And if we knowingly violate that in any way, we open ourselves up to liability, both from an injury standpoint for not following the MUTCD, and we do risk federal funding. I would add, it would also be helpful to know what's being proposed. That's never been discussed with us.
Alderman Burnett?
Steve, are you aware of any situations where the federal government has actually withheld funding?
I believe there were some interim or experimental projects that were authorized around the United States, and in light of some civil actions, those experimental or interim approvals have all been rescinded, and it's kind of a blanket no right now, if I'm correct.
Yeah, if I can add to that.
Dave Hanson is our traffic engineer.
Dave Hanson, traffic engineer. Yeah, Steve's right, and that's actually, these experiments, let's just call them, through federal highways are done through what are called IAs or interim approvals. And you actually have to apply to the Federal Highway Administration to try these, do a trial basis of them. And some people, I would presume probably maybe a number in this room have actually seen, I know social media's been somewhat, not pushing them, but it's been popular, where you'll see, they look like 3D murals, or it's almost like an eye trickery where it looks like it's 3D. And that particular experiment took place in, I believe it was like New Hampshire or Maine. And that was rescinded based off of safety issues that transpired because of it. I guess the moral of the story is that that's showing that it's detracting from what motorists are supposed to be doing, which is paying attention to the driving and, more importantly, paying attention to pedestrians. Now, there was even an example that I saw of this, and in that video, I actually couldn't believe that it was actually still in this video, of a pedestrian almost getting clipped by a motorist in one of those. So to me, I think they're very dangerous.
Sure, and you know I respect your opinion very much. But I guess the underlying point that I'm trying to make is that I have a hard time believing that a federal government official would take that extreme approach without first asking us to rectify it and remove it or paint over it. Like, for me, it's a very cynical view of the government that they would take such a punitive measure that, oh, you installed this per your interpretation of the law, and now instead of going through all the other redress, we're going to simply deny your funding. Like, I think that if the government ever took that extreme approach, I think the citizenry would take a very harsh judgment of that government. Not saying it's not possible, it certainly is. If I could, Chair, just want to make one point.
You got the floor.
First of all,
we're still
to the
yes.
question. Yes, I commend you very much. This is an incredible plan to begin with, and the fact that you took the time and effort to dig deeper is exactly the sort of thing that we need more people to do, because obviously it's something that's very important to you. So what I would like to do, and I'll yield the floor, but to get the opinion of our city attorney. Like, this
Do
is
you have
what
any
can-
questions for
You approached the city attorney's deputy. Have you had any interaction with other attorneys for other municipalities on this, or is it just restricted to the city of Green Bay?
As far as attorneys are concerned, I've only spoken via email with the attorney from
Okay.
Green Bay.
Okay, no other questions. I was going to say thank you.
All right, motion to close the floor, unless you have any more questions for the young lady.
So moved.
Motion to close by Worry, second by Johnson. Under discussion, here none. All in favor? Nays, motion carried. Floor is now closed. We'll discuss and make a recommendation. Okay, thank you.
Good. Do I give you this?
Yeah, that's fine. Let's take a lead. Alderman Burnett?
For me, I simply, instead of kicking this around, I'd just like to get an opinion from the city attorney. If she says no, it's a no-go, cautions against it, then to me it's a dead issue. The fact that the young lady went through this effort to push forward, I think we owe it to her at least to go that far, to get an official city correspondence to the city attorney asking for an opinion. So that's what I would like to do. I'll make a motion to that effect if the committee would second it.
Alderman Burnett's making a motion to that effect, Steve.
Second.
Second by Worry.
To ask the city attorney what we could do in regard to crosswalk art in the Broadway district to satisfy state and federal and local ordinances and laws.
Okay, and there's a second. under discussion. Alderman Worry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would also like to hear, and maybe the applicant can do this, what the city attorney in Milwaukee has to say. I mean, obviously, they're doing it, right? This is well put together. You get an A+ for the college. I think it's well put together. For me, there's two issues, legal and safe, right? I mean, if it's just something legal and we're kind of in the gray area, we do it and they say don't do it, we take it down, right? But if it is causing a safety issue and someone gets hit, well, then you're opening yourself up to liability and you can't undo it. If a pedestrian gets hit because somebody's gawking at the pavement. So that would be my concern, not as much the legality, because I think there's enough wiggle room there. But I'm curious to see what our attorney says, so I'm kind of split on both. The safety
Okay.
part does concern me.
All right, all in favor? Oh, Johnson?
I will support referral to the attorney, and I understand the point about safety, and I agree, safety needs to be a priority, but there are things around us all the time that create distractions, and I would, ask the question, does this one create any more of a distraction than anything else around us? And I appreciate the comment, Dave, about seeing a video once that had someone almost get clipped. I would also ask the question, how many times have you seen other intersections that don't have painted crosswalks where people get clipped? And in fact, I think the answer to that is very obvious. So, and the other comment that I would make is that I do think that Sam last month was very clear with what her request was, even though it's been said that that hasn't been clear. And in her presentation last month, she very clearly said that we're asking for permission to do this, and we will then work with staff to determine the right design. So I think she was very clear about that last month, and I want the committee to just recall that point.
Okay, all in favor?
She's not asking for a specific design, she's asking for permission first before design
That
comes
was my
forward.
understanding.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Are you okay with giving a legal opinion? Did you have
Yes.
something else?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes, motion carried. Well, I got so many notes, I can't even find my agenda. On the agenda. Okay, number 5, consideration of possible action on a request by Alderman Johnson for recommendations on how to alleviate chronic flooding on South Broadway, Clinton Street, South Maple Ave, South Ashland Ave, Shawano Ave, and Antoinette Street. Alderman Johnson.
So I brought this forward because I've had a couple of residents reach out to me recently, actually over the past year, really. Antoinette seems to consistently be underwater every single time it rains. I know we've got Joe, who will probably speak here about South Broadway. That problem continues to carry over into Ashland. I know a couple of rainfalls we've had this year. I mean, you can't even cross Ashland Avenue. So I guess rather than just putting this on the back burner and saying there's nothing we can do, I would just like to have this open for discussion, give some of the residents in the area an opportunity to share some of their perspective, and then maybe get some staff's opinions on what we can do to start to alleviate this, even if it's not something that we can do immediately.
Entertain a motion to open the floor for interested parties by
Motion.
Johnson, second by Burnett. Under discussion, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Nays, motion carried. The floor is now open. One at a time, just approach the bench, state your name and address for the record, and we'll discuss this. Anybody?
Hi, my name is Seth Lenz. The address I own is 416 to 424 Clinton Street, and I live at N8877 Wellers Lane in Luxembourg. Anyone want this?
Or just hand it to the director, please, for the minutes. Thank you.
My concern is, it seems like the stormwater management over there isn't working properly. I've discussed this a few times with different people, and I don't know any names, it's just a call when it's flooded, But it seems like even today, if you go over there, the storms are full, up to the grates. When it rains, 5 minutes to rain, and it's coming out of the grate, out of the storms, and it runs around my building, back to the train tracks, and then it gets pulled up by Broadway there. There's kind of a train track area. And the only way it kind of goes down is if they come up with a pump truck and pump it over the gate. I understand the system. We have a gravity feed to the river, and if that gets full, this works as a reservoir, and they pump over the gate to get the water out, correct? Kind of. So the river's high, so we have water problems.
The only issue that we're having with now is when we get rain, there's nowhere for it to go and it's gotta be forced out into the river. The pumps can't keep up from what I kinda put together. And just pumping it over the gate every time it rains isn't gonna be a solid solution to this. And my concern is, with the new shipyard, or if that goes through, we're gonna take this, put all this money on top of this system and not fix it at the same time? And then we just have more headaches? They want us to develop and put money into this, but every time it rains, my building's 8 inches underwater? And that's my concern, you know, it's, how am I supposed to put money into a business to help grow the community? And I support this, I think this is a good thing, the shipyard and everything, but if we're not fixing what's underneath to solve the problems that we already have, you know, that's just gonna create more headaches down the road. And I've heard multiple stories, the pumps are old, the pumps are new. If the coal piles get moved, we're gonna get a new pump, we're gonna fix this. I just keep hearing the same thing over and over again. But I'm gonna lose tenants if it keeps flooding every time it rains. So how are we supposed to keep the businesses going down there if this is an issue? And that's my concern, and I appreciate what you guys do and listen to all the concerns. Any questions for me?
Any questions from the committee for Mr. Lance Johnson?
How many times has your property been underwater in the last year?
Last year? Well, it's mainly been this year when the water levels came up. So this year alone has probably been about 6 to 8. I mean, I think I've called every time if they really want to look it up. And I asked them to state my name and write down who I am and where it's going to. So they can actually, if they keep the records properly. And I called the emergency number. So,
Any kind of?
I mean, last week I did it twice in 1 week.
Just last week?
Yeah, with those 2 falls.
Property damage occurring?
Well, it's a steel commercial building. I mean, I got drywall and stuff that gets wet, but we just try to air out and keep going.
Okay.
And what else do you do? I mean, stuff is getting damaged. How many rainfalls it could take like this, I don't know. But obviously, it's damaging my property. You know, and I still got to pay my stormwater bill. You know, and I'm taking the stormwater out of the system, going into my building.
Any other questions, Burnett?
How long have you owned the property?
4 to 5 years.
So obviously the last 2 years have been extreme weather conditions.
Yeah, and
The
you know,
previous- Well, the
sorry.
previous 2 to 3 years, other than the last 2.
Yeah, when the river was low and the gravity feed is working, it seems to be okay.
No problem, so it could
Yeah.
be isolated to the
Yeah.
fact that we've had extraordinary weather patterns the last few years.
Yep.
So I think
But what I'd like to bring up is this is something the Press Gazette used, made up. Same thing in 2016, same issues. And we're supposed to look into it and solve these problems. I don't know if any plan was made or not, but even Steve is mentioned in that news bulletin.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Any questions for Mr. Lenz? If not, anybody else from the audience
Okay, thank you.
wants to speak? Just approach the bench and just state your name and address for the record, please.
Joe Arts. My wife and I own
Address, please.
Our Place Family Restaurant at 519 South Broadway.
Okay.
And yes, we have water coming in our building with these heavy rains. From last year, August, to this year, August, we've flooded 5 times. And when I say flooded, it's from front door to back door. There's water all the way across the place.
Right in your restaurant.
In the restaurant.
Okay.
And I know he's on Clinton Street, and a couple months ago, when it was raining hard, I was in the restaurant, so I was just running around we have a drain in our parking lot, and then there's drains on Broadway. So I'm running around watching the drains, because if they start coming up, we're gonna have water and flooding the street and flooding our parking lot and flooding us. So I'm running around from drain to drain, and actually, there's 2 pumps, one on each side of us. So I'm watching it, and the water's going down in the drains by us on Broadway and in our parking lot. So it's raining hard, and I see Clinton Street flooding, and that's just over to the side of us. And yes, his building, it'll come up on Clinton, around his building, and then there's a set of tracks, railroad tracks. It goes over those tracks into a field that's between the tracks, and like it's a triangle, track, Broadway. So the water starts filling that field, which is the pump on the north side of us, which is the drains on Broadway. So once that starts filling, that's when the pump that's next to us can't keep handling
Right.
the water, and that's how we flood. But Clinton Street floods more than we do because it floods first. That's the pump to the south of us. They tell me it's a 54-inch line on the south side of us, and the pump just can't handle the water, I guess.
Okay.
Now, I said in the last year, we've done it 5 times like that, from last August to this August. And you know, we've owned the building, my wife and I, since '92. I was there with another couple from '89 and bought them out. It happened once in '90 to us like that, where it flooded all the way across. And really never that bad till last year in August. There were a few times it creeped in our back door and got in the kitchen area, but not all the way across like that. So I know it's, you know, the rains. I talked to Mike Daniil from your department. I call him, and then he gave me a number. So whenever it rains and I see it going over the tracks, I call the Department of Public Works. They're probably getting sick of hearing from me. Jeff, I think is his name. He answers a lot at night and stuff. And yeah, they get pumps over there, but it's too late. I mean, the water's
Right.
there by the time the pumps get there.
Okay. Any questions? Alderman Burnett?
Joe, you ever had issues with the river flooding, just the storm water?
It's the storm water,
So never
yeah.
the river, even though you're right
Yeah,
next
the
door.
river level's probably higher up
Never had
than we
issues
are.
with the river.
No, no.
And
It's
then-
never coming, well, the tracks are there.
Yeah.
I mean, the tracks are up high,
Oh, yeah.
so it's never coming from the back.
Yeah, so I noticed you just spent some resources, capital to improve it, right?
Yes,
And
yeah, well,
unfortunately,
yeah.
sadly.
Well,
Was
when
there
it-
any permanent damage to your
I hope not,
booths and
but I mean,
chairs and-
we put in new flooring, and we did that in January, and hoped that it wasn't gonna flood anymore, but unfortunately this year it happened 3 times. And we just changed the booths out this week. So, yeah, we're trying to because we used to have the carpet.
Yeah.
Yeah, we tore that all out, because that was
Any
getting a
other
little
questions?
overly wet.
Jesse?
Are you overall, satisfied with the response of the city in regards to the flooding?
Well, by the time they, get there, it's a lake. Each side of us has water, the street's flooded, and there's water across the whole building. So, and I don't know what can be done to get there sooner. That gentleman back there comes and helps us clean up every time pretty much. Him and his son come and they run wet dry vacs with us and we mop and stuff.
No other questions?
Johnson?
So Joe, you said 5 times in the last year.
Yeah.
Have you had problems prior to that?
No, like I said, I was there with another couple from '89 to '92, and it happened once. But since that time in '90, never flooding that bad.
Okay.
Like I said, a little bit sometimes it would come in our back door and maybe get the kitchen area and stuff. But when I say across the building slopes, so we'll have like 5-6 inches by the front door, and the back is like a foot.
Okay. And obviously, I assume you're closing your restaurant then when that happens, you're losing revenue.
Yeah, we try to clean up that night or whatever, whenever the pumps will get it out eventually, and then we, mop under wet dry vacs, and then just hook up blowers and fans at night.
And I've been down there when it's flooded. I mean, the street's impassable.
Yeah.
How long does it usually take for that to subside or to be pumped out?
It's, whenever they get the pumps hooked up, a couple hours probably.
Okay.
Any other questions, Johnson? All right. Entertain a motion to close the floor.
Unless there's anyone else.
Anybody else?
Is anybody else? Okay, entertain. Pardon?
Can I add something?
Yep.
Yeah. I guess one thing I'd like to point out is he talks about how fast it goes down once they add the pumps. So why can't we consider putting bigger pumps in there to solve the problem? That's the biggest thing, my biggest request. Obviously there's gonna be an issue there now. Obviously the water has to go somewhere. But everything I've heard is, well, it's working properly. We're just having large amounts of rain. But if we're having this more frequently, we need to install some kind of larger pumps or more pumps or something. So that's the only thing I'd like to add is, it does go down
Okay.
if they add pumps. 2 pump trucks, it goes down, so, you know,
Okay.
are the pumps undersized, or, that's kind of my concern.
Thank you. All right.
Motion to close the floor?
Motion to close floor by Johnson, second by Bernard. Discussion here, none. All in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. Floor is now closed. What's the recommendation, or Alderman Johnson,
Just
your
said-
communication?
Yep, I'd be
All
looking
right.
to Steve, I guess what,
Well, that's why we
perspective.
provided the memo to you. South Broadway at Clinton, 500 block of South Broadway, South Maple Avenue, South Ashland Avenue, and Shawano Avenue. All of those will be addressed by the modifications to the 2 lift stations on Broadway that are part of the capital improvement plan. The larger pumps are being constructed as we speak, and the stations are under design. Those are projects that were approved and will be built yet this year or on into the spring of next year, depending on when the pumps show up. So everything except for the Antoinette Street location, that's all being addressed by projects you've already authorized us to complete. So
So this-
exactly what's been asked for is what we are doing. We have an active plan. Antoinette Street, if you look at elevations, we're on our own city data, so you can't correlate it to National Geodetic Survey or anything else, okay? But for relative heights, at the intersection of Antoinette and Blesh, not the sewer itself, the manhole cover in the center of that intersection is at elevation 99.3, I believe. Right now, the current river level is vacillating between 99.8 and 101. So the street is almost a foot lower than the river. That's an open pipe that comes up to Howard, or Hubbard. No, Howard. Howard. And runs straight out to the river. So as the river level comes up, that hydrostatic pressure goes backwards up the pipe and it blows out of the inlets. The river level, I was at a seminar last week where National Weather Service was attending, and Jeff Last, one of the meteorologists from National Weather Service, provided us with the data between March 1st and August 1st of this year. The Fox River is 3 feet higher than it was on March 1st. We tied a 38-year record on Lake Michigan, and we were just shy of breaking a 101-year-old record for lake levels. When the river levels get that high, there's not a whole lot we can do, and we are building the larger pumps. We do have plans to address those 2 lift stations. Now, one of the things that we are talking about, we're looking at a solution for the Antoinette Street line about putting a flat gate in and providing a small lift station there to dewater under low flow conditions. It can't handle the big pipe or the big storms, but what the intent there is to pump out the pipe to get that Antoinette or Howard Street line empty before the next storm. So it'll be a smaller pump that we can get the line dry. That way when the next storm comes, we've got some storage capacity in there as the pump is running, in the hopes that we can dampen some of that effect. But one of the problems we have with Antoinette Street and that area is there is a lack of available right-of-way for us to put that infrastructure in. We need a large control panel, electrical control panel, and things of that nature, and we've got tight conditions out there to start with. So, I mean, we're actively working on Antoinette as well.
Okay, so the reason I lumped these all together, Steve, because I know that, you know, the old slough kind of runs through that area, and I didn't know if you know, the problem was all kind of connected to similar condition there. So, I mean, I appreciate your update on the pumps, which sounds like we just need to get those live. Hopefully that will resolve some of the challenges we have with the folks that spoke today. Do you have an estimated time frame in terms of when those will go live?
We haven't received them yet. They're still actually, it takes 8 months for them to actually build the pump.
And will
And
we
those were
install
ordered
them
this-
once
Those were
they're,
ordered in the spring.
so will we install them as soon as they're
As
received?
soon as we get them, yeah.
Will that be in the winter months? Does that matter?
If we have to do it in the winter, we'll do it in the winter. It's, I mean, we understand the criticality of these flooding events.
Okay, so what can we do in terms of, in the interim, with a response time, or is there anything we can do in terms of a response to more quickly, I guess, pump this out before it's flooding properties?
we're doing it.
Can't bring a bigger truck up? I mean, again, I'm not an engineer, so forgive me if I sound stupid.
We're
It's just-
we're throwing everything that we have at these areas right now.
Okay. So there's nothing we can do to pump this water out of there faster, or in the case of Antoinette, I know one of the residents called me over there that they sat underwater for several days, they said. I mean, is that customary? I mean, in terms of leaving the neighborhood underwater?
Antoinette,
We can't,
Antoinette is gonna be like a circle. I can bring every pump known to mankind in there, and as fast as I pump it and put it in the river, it flows backwards up the pipe and comes out of the inlets, and I'm trying to dewater the Fox River at that point.
can't put a backstop or something?
I can't dig down and get into the backstop because I'm 4 feet underwater. I gotta be able to get down there and see the pipe, and we gotta be able to work in dry conditions, and we can't, because as soon as you dig the trench to go down to the pipe, you're underwater, you're under the river level. I would love to be able to tell you there's magic ways of doing this, but
I'm not looking for magic ways, I'm just looking for a way, right?
well,
Like
I understand.
I mean, if my house was, underwater for 2 days, 3 days, like I'd be noticeably upset as well. And so I'm just trying to, deliver some type of solution for these residents. And it sounds like, you said that there's an electric panel that you're working on to be able to put in a different style of pump over there?
There is no pump on Antoinette right now.
Oh, there's not, okay.
No.
So
That's just an open gravity feed system that goes to the Fox River. With the height of the Fox River, the river level runs anywhere from about a half a foot to upwards of a foot, foot and a half. The river is actually higher than the street. Ignore the storm sewer pipe that's 4 feet below ground.
can we put in
If
a
there was no
reservoir?
storm sewer pipe, that street would still have water in the gutters because the river level is higher than the street.
Can we put a reservoir in somewhere? I thought at one time we were even talking about a reservoir over in the Seymour Park area to help with that location. Is that
That wouldn't
useful?
help Antoinette.
I know it wouldn't help Antoinette, but in the spirit of talking about all of these combined together, is that a useful strategy? So specifically, right, when I'm looking at Maple Street, Clinton, Broadway, would a reservoir be useful over there?
No, what's gonna be useful over there is getting the lift stations completed.
And you think those lift stations will solve the challenge that we have there?
That's, yeah,
Completely.
that's exactly what that's exactly what we expect.
Okay. And I know the floor is closed, but it sounds like the response time has been good when Joe calls, but there's still that waiting period, right? You gotta call, you gotta get someone over there. Is there anything that we can do to maybe be a little bit more proactive when we know that heavy rainfall is coming in? Automatically dispatch someone over there?
Again, we've only got so much equipment and so many people, and there are more known high water areas than there are staff available to handle it. In addition to these areas, we've got areas on the east side that also go underwater.
Yeah, don't
So
pull
when-
a crew
when we
from the
get the
east
phone
side,
call-
darn it, keep
when
them
we
right
get the phone
there.
calls, we're going to where we're getting the call from.
So I think, and I appreciate, Steve, you guys are working on it, and I know you're not ignoring it and neglecting it. And I think that's where I just go back to say, how can we as a council help you, I guess, get to a solution? Is it a resource problem? Is it a staffing problem? Is it what do you need from council, I guess, to help deliver some relief for these areas that are chronically being flooded?
It's not a function of what the council can give us. This is a function of what we're physically faced with. This is a function of high water. It's a function of how the storms are coming down. This is not something that we're saying. This is accepted meteorological data. This is happening all over the United States, and people are finally starting to talk about it. The nature of precipitation has changed, and our systems were never designed to accommodate this. So I don't know that it's necessarily something that the council can give us that's going to help.
Are we talking about any type of, alteration to our strategy with new infrastructure, recognizing that if things have changed, we're getting more of the 100-year rainfalls? Is that something that we're trying to respond to?
That is not something we've addressed, no.
Okay. All right, I guess since this is my item, unless somebody else has anything to say, what I'm gonna do is I think, I'm gonna refer this back to staff with, I think I would move that we refer it back to staff with the understanding that we've got pumps that are coming, lift stations that are coming. Looks like, actually, I'd make a motion to open the floor.
Motion to open the floor for interested parties by Johnson, second by Burnett. Under discussion, here none, all in favor.
Aye.
Nays, motion carried. The floor is now open. Just raise your hand, state your name and address for the record, and I will address you. Yes, Mr. Lenz.
Weller's Lane. What I'd like to see is some kind of push to get a date. I mean, they manufacture these, they know how long it takes to manufacture them, they know how long it takes to install them. Let's actually get a push to get a date on them, so it doesn't just go away, kind of like in the letter in 16. We had it, they were supposed to have a plan, they're supposed to fix these issues. I don't know if they did, but they're still here. So I think we should at least get some kind of date put on this, on when this is gonna get fixed, rather than just saying, we don't know. They're getting manufactured, they know how long it takes to make these machines. I mean, that's what they get paid for, is the company that it's coming from. So that's the one thing I'd like to ask, is some kind of date, so we're not waiting forever for it to happen. Thank you.
Anybody, thank you. Anybody else from the audience? If not, yes, sir. State your name and address for the record, please.
Rob St. Alban, 1165 9th Street. I think the response time, instead of waiting for the storm to actually be here and it does its damage and then send the pump trucks, it's too late. We need to focus on, okay, it's really raining, doesn't take much to get the flow going. Let's get people here faster. Have the pump trucks ready as it's coming in. Instead of having it come over the train tracks, fill the field, fill Clinton, flood the restaurant, then the pump truck show up. It's way too late. Damage is already done.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else from the audience? If not, entertain a motion to close the floor. Motion by Johnson, second by Weary. Under discussion, here none, all in favor.
Aye.
Nays, motion carried. The floor is now closed. What are the wishes of the committee?
I'm going to move to refer to staff. And in fact, I was going to actually hit those 2 points, so I'm glad you guys came up. My motion's going to have a couple parts to it. One is, if we could come back at next month's INS meeting with an estimated date of installation for the pumps, assuming, Steve, that you can reach out to the manufacturers and have that conversation. Second part is that I'm going to urge staff to consider how we can more proactively respond when we see a heavy rainfall coming in. If we know that they're going to go out there right away, I appreciate the point about we don't have enough staff, but if we know we're going to send them there, let's just send them an hour earlier. And then my third point is if we could come back with some possible solutions with Antoinette in terms of where we could install utility boxes or lift stations to help remediate some of that flooding that's over there, since it sounds like staff's already working on it. Just looking for an update so that it shows up on the agenda next month.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor to that effect. Steve, do you have that?
Yes, I do.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, Alderman Weary, under discussion.
Yeah, I think that hits all the main points. That's perfect.
Well, one of my concerns, Steve, is that if we have crews on the west side, who's helping me over on the east side?
Yeah.
Your item's next.
Right?
3 West Siders on the committee.
Is that an issue?
Sorry.
You pick.
No, I'm serious, that would be an issue.
I'm serious too. You pick.
Okay,
You guys tell me where you want it.
east side. Schwartz, Mason, that's in the motion.
I'm serious. If-
Whatever.
If you want.
No, I am
proactive-
serious.
If you want me proactively staging the guys, then somebody needs to make a decision where, and if we stage them west and the storm hits east instead, and I've got guys sitting over there at the west side waiting for those things to flood, and we wind up with a tornado on the east side instead,
Like we just did, right?
okay? Or if I stage them west and the East River goes underwater like it did in March, okay? Somebody's got to pick. That's why we wait until we get the call. When the call comes, that's where we know we need to go, because there's an immediate problem.
Okay.
So we respond to it. If you want me to be proactive, you tell me where I'm going.
All right, I'll support the motion, and then, well, then we can discuss it. Okay? Is that fair enough? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Nays, motion carried. Your issue's coming up later, Mark.
I know, I was gonna ask something to this effect, but it's already done. I had a question.
Okay, well,
Corrected in there. I just wanted to ask Steve, you mentioned Antoinette, it's a little bit under the datum there. What other road, is there a number of roads in Green Bay that are like that, under that river level?
We haven't gone out looking for that.
No, but I'm just saying that you would think in the area, you know, there may be some others.
There may be.
Okay.
Mark, that'd be a late communication. Okay. Moving forward, number 6, consideration of possible action on a request by Alderman Nicholson for a status update on plans to address chronic flooding in the vicinity of Main and East Mason Street. Director Grenier.
Okay, we had our consultant run preliminary hydraulic and hydrologic models for the existing conditions, did the quality control. As we identified to you last month, we've done some tweaks there. We have taken a look at a variety of different options for addressing flooding in that area. And the short answer is, one thing we looked at was the East Town Mall area to put an underground detention basin in there. A preliminary cost on that detention basin under the parking lot of the East Town Mall would essentially take up, now bear in mind, when we're thinking of East Town, I need to be clear because otherwise we're gonna get caught in the scope of things. Kohl's is separate from the East Town Mall, okay? So the parking lot in front of Kohl's is not part of the study. We looked at the mall parking lot, just to be clear. We're looking at a detention basin that goes under the entire mall parking lot, based off of our experience with the detention basin under Lambeau Field. Preliminary cost for that detention basin is in the neighborhood of about $20 million. That would cause a reduction of, by putting that detention basin in there, the low spot is actually in Main Street, kind of in front of the dollar store.
Right.
Putting that detention basin in at a cost of about $20 million will, during a flood event, that low spot floods approximately 3 feet. That would reduce that water level by 3 1/4 inches. So it'd still be almost 33 inches of water in the street. We also took a look at upsizing the pipe that goes under the Pick and Save parking lot. That's when they first put Ellis Creek in pipe. Preliminary cost there is about $2 million. And by upsizing that pipe, we could reduce the water by 8 inches out of 3 feet. Second, the last scenario that we took a look at was in Gagnon Park. The Razzmatazz Tavern is currently for sale, knocking that down and putting a detention pond at Gagnon Park, knocking Razzmatazz down and putting a pond there. And then on that triangular property that's bounded by Limekiln, Main, and Mason, north of Lindsley's greenhouse, there is one vacant parcel there that's owned by the Schleiss family. We looked at putting a pond in on that Schleiss property as well. Total cost to do that work for those 3 ponds is about $3 million, and we could gain 13 inches. So that would be a total of 13 inches. So by spending $25 million in that location, we would reduce the water flooding from 3 feet of flood to 2 feet of standing water in the road. We have found some other things. Out there is what's called a weir, and what that does is it's an intended obstruction in the pipe to force the water to come up and over. A lot of times they're used either for flow monitoring or to get solids out. So if that stormwater is carrying cans or bottles or something heavy, because it's an 84-inch diameter pipe, that wall lets the water go over and it keeps the solids behind it. It does have the effect of slowing the water down and restricting it. So we are looking at going ahead and ripping that obstruction out to let the water get down to the Mill Street Pond in a faster manner. One other thing that we did take a look at was Main Street between East Mason and Lime Kiln. There's a very long stretch of road that doesn't have inlet, so it's hard for that water to get off the road down into the storm sewer system. So we took a look at that and said, okay, that's easy. Let's go ahead and take a look at getting more inlets popped in there. The problem is, with the amount of water that's out there, if we add the inlets, when we get to the low point, that forces more water into the pipe to that low point. It's actually going to come shooting out of the inlets at the low point. So we'd actually be worsening the condition for the street ponding. So we're giving you an update on what we're looking at, and we're continuing to look at other solutions, because the ones that we've come up with so far looks like a lot of capital outlay for not a lot of benefit.
You just mentioned something about, you were talking about the Razzmatazz.
Yep.
And Schleiss.
And the park.
And the park?
And the park, all three of them.
Okay, all three of them with reservoirs?
Yes,
Okay. And you said it was how much?
about 3 million.
Okay,
And we could drop the water about 11 inches that way.
okay. Is that significant? 11 inches?
Out of 3 feet, it's about 1/3.
Okay, I mean, it seems like I don't know, what's your opinion, Steve?
It's a help.
Yeah?
So
I think it would make a difference, wouldn't it?
It would make some difference. It would
Yeah.
lessen the amount of flooding, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we are looking for some direction. My personal opinion, $20 million for a storage tank is going to drop the water 3.25 inches.
No, let's take that off the table, that's ridiculous. What's a committee?
The second one that we talked about with upsizing the pipe, I do think that one has some merit to it. And that's got about a $2 million price tag, and then $3 million for the ponds. I think my opinion, I think we should be directing our consultant to go from concept design, narrow it down, and actually start going into a more refined engineering approach to it, as opposed to looking at a model.
I agree. What's the opinion of the committee? Johnson?
Did you see any solutions at all right now to get it from 3 feet to 0?
Well, we did come up with one, and I will say it's not a good solution. We took a look at where everything drains, and ultimately it comes out, and I don't know how familiar with that part of the east side you are, but just to the east of Elizabeth Street on Main, so directly across from the Riverside Ballroom, Schreiber Foods has a plant there, a cheese plant. Just north of that plant is where all of that water eventually discharges to Baird Creek. We figured at the end of pipe exactly how much water do we need to get out of that pipe. And it comes out to 900 cubic feet per second. Okay, what does that mean? That means 6,750 gallons per second. So if you're familiar with a septic hauler, a potty pumper truck, that's about a 6,000 gallon tank. That has to come out of the end of the pipe every second in order to alleviate the flooding. If we could get by way of comparison, at Clinton and Broadway, the pump that's going to go in there, the replacement pump, is a 100 CFS, and that's a monster. So we're looking at something 9 times larger than that at the end of pipe, and then we're going to discharge that into Baird's Creek, which then flows south, goes around, and button hooks around the Riverside Ballroom. At 900 CFS, you're probably going to triple the base flow on that water body. We're going to erode everything. We're going to cause that stream to realign itself if we were to pump that fast. So I mean, we took a look at extreme conditions just to say that we looked at it.
So is this kind of like a final report, meaning like
No.
this is all we've got?
What we were looking at was some direction from the council or from the committee that it's our opinion that storage tank under East Town Mall is kind of off the table now. It's just too much money, no bang for the buck. But the other two may hold some merit. Do you want us to spend the money to continue looking at these to see, can we refine that a little bit more? And
Sure. The one concern I think that I would have is that if we say, yeah, we're gonna spend $3 million to lower it a foot, and we still don't have the problem solved.
You're right.
And then we come back with a phase two that renders that $3 million useless because phase two is what's needed now. So I desperately want to help the situation too. I'm just wondering like how much time you might need to come up with a solution that gets us to zero instead of just -1.
Again, I don't know that we can get to zero. The biggest problem we have, and this is something that we identified in the report that we gave to you first last year and then again earlier this year, the area has developed well beyond what any plans ever called for. So there is so much more impervious surface out there that I don't know that we can build the pipes big enough at this point. Not the way it's connected. I mean, if we were to essentially take everything from Alpine Drive down to Mason, and then or Alpine Drive down to Maine, then Maine down to Elizabeth, and also go out in Imperial Lane and run Imperial Lane up to Mason, then Mason up to, probably up to the East River. If we were to abandon all of that existing storm sewer and reconnect into smaller areas that could more easily be pumped, maybe. But that would be a quarter of the city to throw out all that existing infrastructure and then replace it with new upsized infrastructure, and then we'd be looking at lift stations everywhere.
Just maybe one final question. When you say move it from concept right now into more of an engineering design standard, I mean, what kind of price tag is that looking like?
Oh, we're probably in the $15,000 to $25,000 range for the engineering studies.
Would the engineering studies potentially expose anything that maybe as staff you haven't identified yet? Could they potentially say, hey, here's an alternative solution?
I don't know that they're going to uncover something like that. It's going to be more or less proceeding along the lines that we've already identified, working with the consultant, but trying to narrow down exactly what the impact is going to be and a better idea of what the price tag is. We're on, at a concept level, we're kind of at order of magnitude on these costs right now.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? Yep, Worry.
Thanks, Steve.
Alderman Worry.
I like what you brought forward. This is something we can at least chew on, and it's a great job. I like the 3 ponds and the upside pipes. Obviously, the storage up on East Town Hall just isn't going to do much. Do we have money set aside already, or someplace that we didn't utilize it that we can shift over? Do you need money allocated to this? Or?
Well, again, the studies are going to take some time as well.
Yeah.
So depending on what we find here, this is something we would likely start building into future stormwater budgets.
Okay. That's what come on there, yeah. So you don't need approval for any kind of funding right now, you just need some direction.
We need some direction, and then depending on how we're going to go back to the consultant and ask them to, okay, refine your scope of services and then tell us what that's going to cost. If the engineering services contract for this next phase of design work comes back more than $25,000, then we'll be coming back to you asking for the authorization to spend the money.
Full speed ahead, let's get it going.
All right, make a motion, Chris.
Well, what would be the appropriate motion? To contract to approve moving
Direct
forward
staff.
with.
Direct staff, I think it would probably be to direct staff to work on solutions with the ponds and the upsized pipe.
Yeah, I think
Right.
those are the two that you mentioned were the
Yes.
most feasible.
Well, I think it's common sense,
Yeah.
don't you? Don't you think that would be the best way to go?
Yeah, we do.
All right, that's what I thought. And you're right, Steve, they overbuilt that area. It's just, they didn't see what was coming. That's the problem we have. You can see it. Even Gary Creaser told me about that. But whatever, that's the motion by Worry, second by
Second.
Johnson. Our discussion here, none, all in favor. Nays, motion carried. Thank you. Number 7, consideration of possible action on a request by Alderman Nicholson to address surface water drainage issues at 1661, 1663 Elkie Lane. The reason why I brought this forward, I was contacted by a Mr. Havicorn and a Mr. Kroll. And I also, Steve, I also requested Peter Skog to be here, Heckenliable, and another gentleman by the name of Ryan.
Ryan Picklet.
Okay. Are any of them here?
I don't know where Scott is. Matt couldn't be here tonight.
Okay,
Had prior
Matt
commitments.
told me he didn't know if he was gonna be able to make it or not, but, I mean, was I supposed to contact these guys?
No,
Okay, why, was Peter Skog addressed to please show up?
to be honest with you, I'm not sure.
All right. What about Ryan?
That one's probably on me.
Okay. All right, well, let's move forward. Mr. Kroll, can you approach,
Motion to open the floor?
second? Yes. Approach the bench. We're going to open up the floor by Mr. Johnson making a motion, second by Weary under discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, the floor is now open. Just raise your hand and I'll address you. Just state your name and address for the record, please.
Jeremy Kroll, 2746 Glendale Avenue, Green Bay, 54313. And the issue we were having here was with the stormwater coming up to the back of the property. We're trying to get hooked on to the back to alleviate the problem, because I just built a new property there, new duplex. And we got water buildup, and I had contacted, I don't know, quite a few people, and
The 3 people that I mentioned, basically.
yeah, and they're like, well, it's your responsibility to run all this stuff, and I just don't see how, as a private citizen, I would be responsible for draining the stormwater from a street that my building's not even on.
But you stated to me, Mr. Kroll, that one of the individuals said it was an ordinance and it's up to the property owner.
Yep. And I stated I wanted to see the paperwork that says that I'm responsible for that, and I haven't received anything, or response back, or nothing.
Okay.
Crickets.
Well, Steve, I got a question. When I talked to one of the 3 gentlemen, they said there was an ordinance out there that the property owner is responsible for the hookup. Now, is that true? I mean, this is why I wanted all 3 gentlemen here, so we could just wrap up all these, all the information that's provided, so we could try to solve the problem, or?
I don't know that there's necessarily an ordinance. I know there definitely is paperwork in the file, which is a little confusing to me why inspection isn't on the same page as DPW on this. But there is a memo in the file from Tom Lesbrance, who used to be with the inspection division from 2006.
I remember Tom.
This memo will try to address the concerns of neighbors surrounding the drainage of Irene because of the recent construction at the above addresses, and the addresses are Irene Street, 1655-57, 1661-63, 1665-67, and 1669-71 LK Lane. All of those properties are on LK. Has been building up on the pavement instead of draining onto the property, which will eventually flow overland to LK. This goes back to when that portion of Irene Street was vacated.
Correct.
Down to LK. As a result of the new construction, the site was filled to make the property more usable for the new owner's occupants. The filling of this filling has the effect of blocking the surface water from reaching the inlets on LK Lane. Because the storm sewer on Deborah is approximately a half block to the north, and the storm sewer runs east-west on Deborah, it does not come south on Irene. Because the storm sewer on Deborah is too shallow to extend an inlet to the end of Irene, the project developer was required to install a private storm sewer system on the property. And this is what that private storm sewer system that the developer was required to install looks like. The system serves to replace the naturally occurring drainage across the construction site, collecting the buildup of surface water on Irene and draining the water underground around the new buildings into the storm sewer on LK. During construction, however, required erosion control measures may limit the amount of water entering the new catch basin inlets. This causes the amount of water to build up on the low end of Irene. The buildup should be eliminated when the construction is completely stabilized and erosion control measures have been removed. What that means is the fabric that gets put in to stop dirt from getting in while construction is going on has a tendency to limit how much water can get into the inlets, and once the site was green with grass again and that filter fabric could be removed, then the inlets would function completely as properly. I've attached a copy of the stormwater construction plan showing the new storm system and the connection to the LK storm sewer. Then with the plat for that property, then the plat also states that all the land on all sides, side and rear lot lines of each lot shall be graded by the property owner and maintained by the abutting property owner to provide the adequate drainage of surface water. So I'm not sure what somebody's talking about relative to an ordinance, but I wasn't involved in those conversations.
Right, that's why I wanted all three parties here.
Again, this was all disclosed to the original developers out there, and I believe those developed B and C properties. Now, this property has changed hands to a couple of people since that time. And if those property owners didn't disclose that, then I can see where the new property owners may not have been advised that that was their responsibility.
Correct. But wasn't inspection supposed to be,
Inspection was the one that drafted the memo I was
Right.
reading from, so I'm a little confused as to why they would say that it's a city issue.
that's why I wanted the individuals here.
And I
So
was
we could
al-
so we could just clear it up.
Gotcha.
That was my request.
Yep.
Go ahead, Mr. Kroll.
And I was also told that all this was here already. Like, all these drains were supposed to be here on the property already. I was told that by the engineer and,
Inspection?
I don't know who else I was talking to. Not sure quite offhand.
He's correct, they were supposed to be installed.
Okay, who enforces that then?
Because it's on the private property side, at the time, that would have been inspection department.
Okay. Well, I see an issue here. How do we rectify it?
It's a very good question.
All right.
And the thing is, I mean, I could be compliant and run all these out, but then the issue is still there. You know, I mean, we could run to what, the front? And then we would still be compliant. But then the problem still exists.
Do you have any questions for Mr. Kroll?
No, we don't.
Okay.
Could I get
Steve?
a little clearer?
Yeah.
You said the problem is still, what,
Well, the water issue back there, because the water has no place to go unless there's drainage put in there.
the water coming south off of that.
Off of Irene.
Off of Irene.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's exactly what was discussed in that memo from 2006, because Irene slopes down that way, and there's no way to get a storm sewer in there. The original intent before Irene was vacated, that all should have drained down to LK, and it would have been picked up by the storm sewer on LK. In order to make that piece of property developable instead of street, it was always understood that the development was why the street got vacated. So because that was blocking the flow of the water, that development would have to have the inlets in the back to pick that water up and bring it up to the front.
I guess what I don't understand is why there wouldn't be storm drains on the street itself, you know, I mean, isn't that like normal?
Again, they wouldn't have been there, they would have been down near LK. The water would have flowed in the gutter until it got down to LK and then dropped in at the sewer there. Makes sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And because a developer requested to no longer have the street there, then it becomes the developer's responsibility to manage that water. If it was the city's idea, the city would have kept the street there and then the water would have went down to LK and dropped in the sewers.
I think it, wasn't it the city that owned the property and sold it originally?
To B and C Properties?
Yeah.
Yes.
So wouldn't it have been their issue then, before they sold the property?
Before they sold the property, they would have, as a condition of the sale, it became B and C
Well, that's what I'm
Properties.
saying, I was never disclosed any of that, so.
And I can't tell you how many residents I talk to that are in your boat on a variety of issues. Everything from surface water, stormwater drainage, to sidewalks, to driveway openings, to special assessments.
Okay. So,
Do you have anything else? Because Mr. Lenz probably wants to put some input into this.
that's all I have, I guess, for now.
Okay. You can always come back.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Lenz,
Yeah, well,
state your name and address for the record, please.
so-
Or we already have it.
Yeah, all right. Being from the builder side of this, we have run into this situation before, and you can go back to the title company and to the person you bought the lot from, because if it was supposed to be there, that's the title company's responsibility to make sure that stuff is in place for you. So there's always somebody else to lean back on, because obviously you just bought the lot, built the house, and
Yeah,
you're done.
right, yeah.
And we had a similar situation with Town Scott, where the storm lateral was never put in and it was supposed to be. So there's a lot of legwork behind it, but usually it falls back on whoever developed the land. I mean, the title company should have figured that out for you, and that's kind of their responsibility.
Who's the title company?
It would have been Bay Title, I believe.
Bay Title?
So you can go back and check records with them and bring this up to them, and they might have a solution for you too. You know, if that's the case, that the developer was supposed to put it in, you know, and it got missed somehow. That's just what, you know, what I've run into before.
Yes, sir.
Jonah Lenz, Seth's brother, involved, address is 781 Oakwood Beach Road, Luxembourg. I'd like to just make a general comment because there are so many problems with water runoff, and yet.
Just one second, I'm not gonna allow any general comments. This is basically strictly on the issue of Elkey Lane.
Okay, so you don't want to hear what I feel like the city should probably change to address an enormous amount of water issues.
Okay. We'll give it leeway.
I think that for the 20 years that I've been involved in repairing buildings in the city of Green Bay, particularly in older neighborhoods, that their main concern almost every time is that everything gets paved. Any area that a car could possibly park on is paved. And then we have this problem with all this water that we can't deal with. And nobody ever looks at the idea that the city's still banging up landlords and whoever about paving everything. Like, sometimes stuff should be gravel or grass to slow some water down. And, that's probably the council's job to say, inspection needs to back off of this paving idea, because they want everything paved. I mean, a friend of mine just got a letter in the mail the other day saying you pave a driveway that's been gravel for 80-some years. Like, that only increases the problem.
Okay.
And I know it doesn't affect this situation immediate, or, on Elkey
Right.
Lane, but all of these problems are water runoff. And
Okay.
you were just talking about, too much water down on Main Street, and that's directly from pavement,
All right,
so.
thank you. Back to the issue with Elkey Lane. Well, Steve, if inspection is, they should be following up on this,
And
right? Or am I wrong? I mean,
I would agree with you, and I'm going to be having a conversation about this. We did expect Matt was gonna be here tonight, and again,
well, even Scott,
But-
or the other gentleman too.
So it's been over the last day when we found out Matt wasn't gonna be able to make it here, that he's been giving me briefings. I mean, I know about this issue, but not to the level of detail that I did, 24 hours ago. And one of the things we are gonna be doing is following up with inspection to find out why are they continuing to say that, that it's something other than what it is.
Okay. All right. Do you have any other?
I think that's it, other than it's taken forever
Right.
to get taken care of.
Well, I mean, does this help, or, I mean, what else are you looking for, Mr. Kroll and Abercorn?
I guess it's just a cost thing, really. You know, I already got 18,000 into the front of the house, bringing in the sewer and water in there. And now it's another 12,000 for the back.
Okay.
To me, that renders the property is basically, you know, worth zero then, if that's the case.
Right.
But it's still being taxed at, you know, a certain rate. Like the other 2 lots I own next door, all of them are taxed the same, but if nothing's done on this one, how can this one be taxed the same as the other 2? I don't know.
All right. Any other questions? Do you have any questions, committee? All right, motion to close the floor.
Second.
Motion to close the floor by Johnson, second by Burnett to close the floor. All in favor? Nays, motion carried. Okay, what are the wishes of the committee? I guess, well, this is my communication. What I would like to see is some explanation from our inspection department on the memo. I mean, this should have been all taken care of years ago. Am I correct, Steve?
Again, based on what I know.
Based on what we know.
This was identified back in 2006 that this needed to be installed. And what I don't, it looks like up until very recently, the property did not have a building on it.
Correct.
Okay. And that could be what happened was, until the developer who originally had the property put the building on, it may not have been needed. The water was ponding up against the back, but it was a no harm, no foul.
Right.
And now that there's a building there, now it's causing a problem. And if the developer was intending to install that drainage system when the building went up, because until that time it wasn't needed, and then that just wasn't turned over or disclosed or what have you to the new owners.
So what
at the very least, something should have been disclosed that this was needed, that there was a drainage issue that needed to be resolved.
So where do we go from here, Steve? I've never gone through this before.
Nor have I.
I know. So what do we do? Something needs to be done. Do you need time for the next meeting?
I was going to say, if you want to hold it, and we can report back on discussions we've had with inspection
Would
department.
that be okay with you, 2 gentlemen?
When's the next one?
Yeah, when's the next one?
It's a month from now.
It'll be a month.
I believe September 11th.
The thing is, I have renters moving in on the 1st, and I can't put driveways in until that's figured out, you know, and now we're getting to late spring, and, you know, I don't want to be pouring new concrete in November or October.
Well, you know, I also don't want to give you expectations that we can't meet. We may be able to determine where a communication breakdown happened, but at the end of the day, going all the way back to 2006 when the vacation went through, it was always identified, it was always anticipated that the private property owner was going to be responsible to handle that drainage. So I don't know necessarily that that's going to change. I don't know that the city's going to come up and say the prior developer didn't put it in, so we're going to go ahead and do that. I really don't think that's going to happen. I think it's more likely a situation that we could potentially find out why you weren't informed of it, but it doesn't change the fact that either the guy before you or you is responsible to put it in. And if it was the guy before you who was responsible and didn't, what Mr. Lenz identified might be an avenue, and that may be something you want to take a look at already. But what we're talking about, if that's what the committee wants, I'm definitely happy to dig further into this to try to figure out what went sideways.
Well, yes, I mean, I would love, we gotta know what's going on so we can stop it. I mean, it's gotta be taken care of, Steve. Mark, did you have a comment?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Because of the timeliness and some of the time constraints that were brought up by the owner, you know, what is the feasibility of having a special meeting?
That's what I was thinking, and I was gonna brief the committee on that.
I think that would be appropriate.
Okay. Steve, what about next week? to find
We
out.
can definitely give that a shot.
Would that be okay with the
Yeah.
developers?
That's,
And basically, you'd be the only one on the agenda.
okay.
See what we can do, so you wouldn't be waiting here 2-3 hours through parks and personnel and finance. Okay. Any questions from the committee?
Well, that sounds good. I think in the meantime, though,
Can we do
take
that?
the advice of contacting your
Yeah.
title.
Yeah. I'll try that.
If you can find out and just let us know what's
Yeah.
going on with
As I
that.
said, I'll work on that too and
Thank
see-
you.
See where we're at.
All right. Alderman Ware, you want to make a motion to that effect?
And
then we'll set it- We'll set a date with our director, what we can do as the committee, and then we'll contact Mr. Crowell. Can you leave your phone number to the staff before you leave today?
Yep.
Okay,
It's on there.
To be determined.
It's on my slip, I think.
okay.
Date to be-
Long as it's on your
Address
slip.
is
To
on
be
your-
determined.
No, no.
Motion to hold this item for
Yep.
special meeting, date to be determined.
Motion by Worry, second by Burnett, under discussion, here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays, motion carried. Okay, let's move it forward. We are up to 8, consideration of possible action on the request by Alderman Nicholson to address pavement ponding issues at 2405 Hampton Avenue. I was approached by Mrs. Landry, Mrs. Kathy Landry, about the issue at 2405 Hampton Avenue. Was that about a year and a half ago when we had Jamie out there? And basically he said the city can't do anything. So before we get into any more discussion, Kathy, can you approach the bench and just state your name and address for the record when we open up the floor for you? And there's a motion by Johnson, second by Worry, to open up the floor for interested parties. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes, motion carried. Okay, the floor is now open. State your name and address for the record, and I will,
Kathy Landry, 2405 Hampton Avenue, Green Bay, Wisconsin, 54311. This has been going on a lot longer for me. In fact, my husband passed away 5 years ago, and he said, Kathy, nobody's going to do anything about this. And I said, well, watch me. He's gone, and I'm still here fighting. So I don't have great big pictures, but these are recent. I have summer and winter. And my problem is trivial with all the flooding and everything else. Mine is curb and gutter right in front of my house, in front of my mailbox. And if you look at the pictures, when it floods, it floods. Then I've got mosquitoes and I've got everything else. It doesn't drain, doesn't go anywhere because the curb and gutter wasn't installed properly way back in 2007. So,
but besides
anyhow.
mosquitoes, it's also a safety
And
factor, correct?
winter, ice. I can't even get to my mailbox, so that's why I'm here now, to get something done before winter, before. I'm 72. If I fall and break my hip, and it isn't a threat, it's a possibility. So I don't want any of that to happen.
Okay, do you have anything else?
Well, fix it.
Any
Please.
questions from the committee? Any questions from the committee before I have Director Grenier? Steve, have you been out
Andy
there to take a
was
look
out,
at it?
and he was
Okay.
with Jamie, and
Can
that
you,
was, yeah, I'll sit down.
Give your scenario.
Well, and on resurfacing streets, it's not uncommon that we wind up with small segments of curb and gutter that have minor ponding on it. Offhand, I can't tell you what the criteria is. I believe it's 3/4 of an inch of water that has to be retained. So a puddle of depth 3/4 of an inch or greater will be criteria for replacement. And Jamie is not the only one. We've had other pavement technicians out there prior to Jamie Sonora. This is one of those areas that doesn't meet that criteria. The water puddle, it is present, it does dry up on its own in warm weather conditions, and in the winter it does cause icing. But again, there's a criteria and it doesn't meet the criteria, so.
I got a suggestion. I want to throw it by you. You know how they took care of Edgewood and East Mason Street. They put asphalt on there, I believe, and rubber, tar. Chris, I've seen it on Edgewood and Mason Street and Mason Street by Main Street. And I'm guessing they're putting tar and, I don't know, heating it up and it's sealing the larger cracks.
Yeah.
Can we just do that and take care of this little problem?
It won't bond to in the gutter. We may wind up forcing the puddle 3 feet further a different direction.
That'd be fine.
and creating
Can we
another
try it?
problem.
Because we don't know what might happen. Can we try it? It's not a large area.
You understand what he's talking about?
Mhm.
Thin,
I've actually done
thin
this.
squeegee mastic in the flow line of the gutter.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the street view, that's what I'm doing. So I vaguely recall
I think
being
you've
out
been
there
out there.
myself too.
Yes, yes.
And I think part of it is that the grade on the, if I'm recalling correctly, the grade is so gradual.
Yeah, Hampton's
that,
dead flat.
Yeah,
You got the pictures.
right, yeah, yeah, and I've been out there.
Thank you.
It's been some years since I have, when I was back in engineering division. But yeah, and I recall DPW trying to do something. I thought that we.
No,
Yeah,
No,
there
there
might have been
hasn't been
mud-jacked
anything.
Maybe to know.
nothing's been done.
No, I don't think we could because the mud
This
jacket,
is-
we were
this is
trying to
ringing
get
a
the
bell
water.
to me.
We're facing the house, we were trying to get the water to push. What grade is there? I believe the water would be to
Could
the
get it
west.
further.
The flow, I believe, is to the west. And if we mud jacket to get that to happen, we're gonna create an offset. And instead of the water ponding in front of the mailbox, it's gonna pond right directly in front of the driveway.
Driveway, yeah, 'cause
It does that anyhow.
Mark, you got a comment?
Well, it might have been answered a little bit already, but I think part of it is you have a gutter, you got water flowing, to put something on it to try to seal it, I think with the flow of water in it, I think that would cause a problem trying to get something.
Did you see the pictures?
I have not yet.
Okay.
So
I
that's just my
suggest you to
comment.
look at the pictures first and then take a look at it. It's not a big area.
Again, it's trivial, and I said that, but it's there.
Right. What are the comments are we still in open session?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any other comments for Mrs. Landry?
No.
If not, I'll close the floor.
And I'm back to Ms. now, since Fred died.
All right, Ms.
Motion to close the floor?
Motion to
Second.
close the floor by Johnson, second by Worry, under discussion. Here none, all in favor. I'm just throwing ideas out, trying to fix it. That's all, committee. So, do you have any suggestions, or?
Sure, Mr. Chairman, are we looking to, I guess this could have been for you, but eliminate the water or just move it away from
Just
the,
move it away
from
from,
the front there?
I don't know, what is it about?
Yeah, it's not that.
Okay.
That
Well, then-
long?
So
Move
that
it away?
solution sounds like it might work.
I don't know. Trying to throw ideas, trying to fix it.
The sewer is way down at the end of the block. so
Chris,
that's-
would it be, if we move forward on this, can we have you come out there and take a look at it and have you make a recommendation?
we can take a, yeah.
And-
operations
and,
division,
uh,
come take a look.
Give the recommendation to Steve and see if,
Yeah, like a, kind of a slurry seal, if you will, to do something with the,
Work with Weisman
yeah.
Sewers.
Chris's nickname's Miracle Man, so I've known him to do a few miracles.
Do you want to refer to staff for study?
well,
Refer to staff to
when
try to
take,
find a solution?
well, yes, and Steve, it doesn't have to be a big project,
No, I.
thousands of dollars, but I'm just trying to get a quick fix, just to seal it and get the water out of the way.
I even offered to
That-
have it done by a private contractor, but they said I couldn't do it because it's city
Right.
property.
That'd be my recommendation to you, Steve. Would that work?
Yeah, again, as Chris indicated, because the street is so flat, doesn't have a lot of drainage to it, one of the things we're always concerned with is anything that we do could actually make things a whole lot worse.
But the area I see is this long. I don't know how that's gonna make it, I don't see it, but I tell you what, I'll make a motion to refer this to staff with a study. And Chris, in the meantime, sometime me and you go out there and just take a look at it.
I'll give you a call.
Could you want me to call you?
No, I'll give you a call.
You give me a call. Okay. Sounds
I gotta
good.
look at my calendar.
Yep,
So we'll refer to staff to develop solution.
correct.
Second.
Okay, there's a second by Weary. Under discussion, here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays, motion carried. Thank you. All right, moving forward, number 9, consideration of possible action on a request by Alderman Nicholson to address chronic flooding, Schwartz Street, Edison Street area. I brought this forward many moons ago. Steve, what can we do about it? I'm getting more calls just on the last couple rainstorms. Is there any, and I know this is part of that Schwartz, Edison area. And I really believed when we were talking about pump stations that we were gonna have one right in that area, and all of a sudden, I guess I misunderstood. They went down to northeast side and down by Broadway.
Schwartz Edison is actually, again, part of that Preble area, the old Preble.
Right, old Preble.
Where, okay. It's within storm drainage basin 560, the same drainage basin that the concerns from East Mason, from Castelline Kiln exist. We do only have one documented incident of high water at Schwartz and Edison. That was in 2015. Storm sewer on Edison from Schwartz to Abrams needs to be upgraded to accommodate the 10-year design flow. As Alder Johnson was asking about updating our designs, our storm sewer is currently designed for a 10-year flow. Preble, all the storm sewer we inherited from the town of Preble, is designed between 2 and 7-year storm, and that's what we have here. So Edison, the storm sewer on Edison needs to be upgraded to accommodate the design flow. The sewer on Abrams has been upgraded in 1993. Amy Street was reconstructed in 93, as well as the East River outfall.
So, what are you telling me, Steve?
The pipe needs to be upgraded, and it will be when Edison Street is reconstructed.
Okay.
So basically, we're waiting for Edison's turn to come up in the reconstruct list.
And roughly?
Offhand, couldn't tell you.
20 years?
Could be. I really don't know.
Okay. How can we find out?
Tomorrow morning we can look it up.
Just give me a call?
Sure.
All right. But, Steve, it was just repaved, so we don't do anything underneath when it's just resurfaced. Then.
Edison was just resurfaced?
I'm sorry, Schwartz.
And Schwartz I'm not worried about because the sewer that's going to handle it is actually on Edison.
On Edison, okay.
So Edison is the one that's key right now.
All right. All right, thank you, sir. Motion, actually just refer to staff right now, please, until I get some answers. Motion by Burnett, second by Johnson, under discussion here, none, all in favor, nays, motion carried. 10, consideration of possible action on request by Alderman Stoyer to study and report out the feasibility of utilizing the even-odd residential address overnight parking scenario as done in Milwaukee. Well, that's a problem. In order to relieve the parking problems at residences with limited parking spaces. Alderman Stoyer.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, we are not Milwaukee, we're Green Bay.
I know.
You're bringing big city politics up here.
Hear me out.
You got the floor.
I do, thank you.
Yep.
Well, and I'll probably expect a little bit of pushback on this, but I think it's a topic that needs to be discussed, if nothing else. It needs to be out there, so I want to be part of that discussion. I had a good talk with Tom Wozniak, who is the parking service manager for the city of Milwaukee. He deals with parking issues. Gave me a lot of information, and I'll just kind of go through a few things. Milwaukee, like you said, is a bigger city. It's 586,000 people. Green Bay is 105,000. We're at 18% of Milwaukee's population. So keep that in mind as I move forward. I grew up in Milwaukee, so they've had the even odd set up for parking for many, many years. And for the most part, it seems to have worked. So what Mr. Wozniak mentioned to me last year, that the city of Milwaukee raised $4.5 million in parking permit revenue from these scenarios. And we're always talking about revenues coming into the city. 4.5 million. Now, if you prorate that for Green Bay, that would be $810,000 extra a year for parking permits if we went along with the scenario. He also mentioned that Milwaukee has had $11.5 million in citations served as well. Prorating that to Green Bay at 18%, that would be $2.7 million as well.
But how many people are paying
Right,
those
and
citations?
I'll leave that one alone. I'll leave that one alone. That's just other information he lent to us. You can take that off. So he basically mentioned, Mr. Wozniak mentioned that Milwaukee charges $55 for a permit per year. They can also do quarterly, I think it's $20. So I'm just saying that it's another revenue source. I know that, and they were, as far as winter events as well, I think that's off the table. I wouldn't even delve with that because I know that would be a pushback on that. I think one of the issues that I've had several citizens in, Alder Johnson, your district, Alder Worry to a degree, Alder Nicholson maybe a little bit as well. We have small houses. We have some smaller homes, smaller lots, single stall garages. You've got 3 or 4 cars sometimes. And the issues that come up with parking, is because you cannot park on the street at 3 to 5 in the morning, causes many issues. So people are scrambling constantly to try to find other alternatives. Granted, the houses were built many years ago when it was a different dynamic. Well, the dynamic has changed, and now we have to deal with it. So I'm looking at this more or less as, to study this, to see if there's any feasibility. Like I said, I grew up in Milwaukee. It seemed to have worked while I was living there. Every time I came in to visit, after I moved up to Green Bay, it seemed to work very well. I was looking at other cities. For example, West Dallas, you can't park from 3 to 6 a.m. unless you have a special permit. Oshkosh, no parking from 2 to 5 unless you have a permit. Racine, even odd, they park even odd, but you need a permit. Wausau and Appleton, no parking, period. So there are, like I said, there are cities that have that. So, but there are a number of them. Stevens Point, no parking except by permit for a few days. Madison, it's a little different, even odd from November 15th to March 15th, but there were other factors that I wasn't really getting into. Racine has even odd, you need a permit. So there are a number of cities and communities in Wisconsin that have this. So I think, I think it needs to be looked at. If nothing else, we're always talking about revenues, and this is an opportunity to look at a potential revenue source. So I'll leave it at that and let the committee.
Okay, any
have at it.
questions for Mr. Alderman Mark Stoyer? If not, Director Denier, do you have questions? Have you
Yes,
talked to this one?
Are you looking at even odd, or are you looking at some sort of a on-street parking by permit?
Well, I think when you say even odd, that's kind of the way they've done it. You're saying that it's different. You're saying even odd. I guess what I'm suggesting is that midnight, let's say today is, what is today, the 14th?
Mm-hmm.
So if I wanted to park in front of my house, I'd have to make sure it's on the odd side. So you would park, if you had that ability to park, the other side of the street would be open. I think one of the questions is that you have street sweepers and you've got other activity going on. Right now you have cars that park on both sides of the street. They might have special permits. We've had four or five street sweepers come through our neighborhood recently. So some of the talk was that, okay, the street sweepers won't be able to do their jobs. Well, if it's even odd, chances are that one side of the street would be open, the other side would be open the following day. I don't know how you want to parse it out. My feeling is that,
Well, that's what I'm saying. Are you married to an even odd, or are you simply looking for a way to have some available on-street parking?
well, I mean, right now, we already have some of that. We have the 6 events a year, up to 2 weeks that you can park.
Right.
And that seems to work a bit, but it doesn't solve all the issues. You know, it's a nice thing that we have, and a lot of the citizens utilize that. I have some citizens right now that.
Hang on, Steve, did he answer your question?
Well, the reason I ask, my recommendation is going to be refer to staff for study, but if we refer to staff for study to investigate possible on-street parking accommodations, overnight on-street parking accommodations, that leaves things a little bit more wide open. If we say even odd, we've just limited ourselves to even odd only.
That's what I was thinking, but I just wanted to make sure that was, open up.
So if you want even odd, then limit it down to even odd, but if you want to look at options for on-street overnight parking, then I guess what I recommend is that we refer to staff for that.
I would lean that route.
Okay.
Now, the even odd was just one of the scenarios. One of the scenarios.
Okay.
So I would
All right.
opt for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else, Mark?
No, that should do it.
All right, no, Worry, Johnson?
It's a question for staff, maybe.
Yep.
Steve, when you're.
Thanks,
when you're-
Mark.
I guess looking at that, I mean, I kind of on the surface think, hey, could we just do a permit-based system? And, but if we're gonna go to an even odd system, if staff were to come back saying this is a scenario, would you come back with an estimate of what it would cost for us to implement that, or is that a bit premature?
I think we could build some of those projections in. We would, if we had a proposal or a scenario for evaluation, we would try as best we can to flesh in any of those details, including how the program would work, what the permit fee structure would be. I do want to be very honest about it, because this is a parking-related issue. We would be looking at parking division administering and parking division realizing those revenues. That would not be general fund revenue, that would go directly to 202.
Yeah, and I'm not necessarily looking to go down that road yet, so much as it is that if we were to do an even odd, for example, I would imagine there's gonna be an expense for signage or is that,
could be.
is it not set up that way? I don't know.
And again, one of the reasons I didn't want to limit us is because something that Alder Sawyer mentioned triggered a different way of looking at things. What I'm used to with even odd is, and the devil is always in the details. That's where the bugaboo comes. Today's the 14th. Does that mean, because overnight ends on the 15th, who gets it? Is it even or odd? Okay, so we would have to define the day that starts the evening. So the night of the 14th would be an even. The night of the 15th becomes an odd, okay? You do wind up with some minor disparities because we have days that have 31 months in it, and then the 31 month becomes the first, so you get odd 2 days in a row, okay? The even people get really, really mad about that.
Well,
and just hear me out, okay? So what I'm saying is what I heard was something a little different. What I'm used to seeing is on odd days of the month, the odd addresses get to park on street, and on even days of the month, the evens do. What I'm hearing is a possible, something to investigate, is that it's not regulated by the address, that the address and the date don't necessarily correlate, but more so the side of the street. So it doesn't matter if you live on the even side of the street or the odd side of the street. If you need the parking, you park on the odd side on the odd day, and you park on the even side on the even day. And if that's regulated through the use of permits, that may change the dynamic. I think that's a different study than maybe what we've done in the past. I can't guarantee it's going to change the outcome, but it may be a different way of looking at things.
Just let Johnson. Sawyer.
Okay, Steve, I appreciate those comments. there might be semantics here, you know, from what I understand is that if it's August 14th and I want to park in front of a house, it's at midnight. So midnight the next day is the 15th, so you would park on the odd side of the street. I've read that in a couple of other cities.
Okay.
And that would just be the way to do it. Green Bay is a little unique too. I mean, living in Milwaukee, they had even odd, pretty well set up. They had boulevards, they had a lot of rectilinear streets. Here in Green Bay, you might have like Lock Drive, goes like this. You know, all about that. So the addresses, you know, it might be really interesting, and then right on the corner it flips, so it's just a small little segment, so it's kind of like
Just like Jean Street.
so there might be some other factors that come into play to discuss that, but I'm just trying to, I'm looking at this as a revenue generator as well, and also to help solve some of the parking issues in tight places where homes are small, driveways are small. That's all.
Well, I guarantee you it's gonna be a revenue generator, because there's gonna be somebody who's gonna get it backwards, and that's the guy who's gonna get the ticket.
Well,
That's right, this INS is gonna be flooded with constituents, guaranteed. Story, you're gonna be
You're
here.
welcome.
Set up a new parking division.
Yeah,
I'm ready.
new committee, and he leads it.
You be nice.
I'm being honest.
Still kidding.
But go ahead, go ahead.
No, I'm good right now.
All right.
I'm good right now.
So what are you looking for?
I think a motion to refer to staff to evaluate on overnight on-street parking options.
Okay.
So moved.
To that effect by Alderman Johnson, second by Alderman Worry. Under discussion here, none, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays, motion carried. All right. You're up again, Stoyer.
Yeah.
Consideration of possible action on a request by Alderman Stoyer to take a look at placing a street light on the east of Fellows Avenue, just north of Shawano Ave. Alderman Stoyer?
I had a request put in by Betty Jane Fellows, who, the street is named after her family. She's lived there a long time. And Fellows is a fairly busy little segment of road. You know, connecting Shawano to Dousman. They're also going to be building a 4-story hospital clinic over on the corner of, well, basically on the northeast corner of Taylor and Shawano. So Fellows needs some work as well on the street, but I'm getting to the light. The light itself, I mean, it just seems that with the development going on, it's quite dark in that area, and I guess I just need some engineering talk to state whether this is feasible or not in that area. It's a short segment, but very heavily traveled, and the request of the citizen who lives in the duplex on basically the north, well, it's where Fellows, it's the first road, the first house on the right, as you, just north of Shawano, on the right-hand side. So I'm just looking to see if there's some feasibility for a street light, and what else is out there that you feel would be adequate enough to cover it. And if not, I'd like to know.
Great, Director Grenier, I think he would be the best one
Jake,
to.
for
That's it.
9,000 lumens, the residential spacing is 400, correct? 350? Okay. What we provided to you is a map showing the existing street lighting pattern in the area of Fellows Drive. There is a 14,000 lumen on the south side of Shawano Avenue, directly opposite at Fellows. Spacing from that light up to Sundale is 365, where we then get to our first 9,000. Then it's 295 feet between that light and the one at Gary, and then 335 feet between Gary Lane and the north side of Dousman Street. So at this point, the street lights are all on the west side of the street, but the street light spacing is within city standards, and staff would recommend that the light spacing be retained as it is.
Well, I'm just looking at it, and it looks like they are spaced well between Dousman down to Gary, and then Gary down to Sundale. And so the red dots are lights
That's a
as
higher
well.
wattage
That's a
light.
higher wattage light.
Yes.
I'm not denying any of this, I'm just saying that, that, being on the south side of Shawano too, you got traffic going back and forth. Is it more than adequate to cover the area not only on Shawano, but north across the street to those homes on Fellows? I
Alderman
guess.
Stoyer?
Yes.
Mr. Hanson wants to
I was
address
just
it.
gonna add one thing. I know you mentioned about the development that's gonna take place. Based off of some of the drawings that we've seen up to this point, there's a lot of parking lot in that area that actually would be, I guess, in proximity of Fellows Ave. What we've historically seen too is you get these new developments and you see a lot of lake spillover as well. So I actually think that could probably add some lumens to the street.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Like I said, I'm putting in a request from a citizen, and I appreciate the map, and we'll talk therefore as such. So, that's all I really have, Chair.
Well, I really appreciate it.
So,
please excuse me, I have to leave. Alderman Johnson will, as vice chair, will take over running the meeting. Good luck to you, sir.
Thank you.
Committee, what's your pleasure?
I guess, if you could, Alderman Stoyer, what do you think about waiting for this development to come up and see what that spill is waiting, which...
I guess...
We don't want it to be too much, we want it to be just enough.
No, that's true, but I guess that's another thing too, as far as, has anybody heard anything as far as when this may develop? I know that the site plan's in, but 4 months, 6 months, a year, next year, it's hard to say. I haven't heard.
Saw the fence go up.
What's that?
I saw the fence go up around it.
Well, the fence is up. Now, there's other issues that I'm dealing with the neighbors on that, but, so I would be fine with that. I would be fine with that. To wait till, it might be a while, but I'm thinking it would solve some of that. They might even complain there's too much light.
I would,
Be careful what you wish for.
maybe entertain a motion to receive and place on file, and then Mark can submit a new communication to address it if it needs to be
If
addressed.
it needs to be addressed. I'm good with that.
So moved. Second.
Thank you.
Motion by Alderman Weary, second by Alder Brunette, to receive and place on file. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item, where are we now, 12? Consideration of possible action request by Department of Public Works to amend contract for LED signal replacement on connecting highways.
This is one that Mr. Hansen's been patiently waiting to address.
You didn't have a gig tonight, did you?
If you-
That's what
Yeah, poor Rick is still sitting there.
I hope you don't have.
Russ is sleeping, I think.
Motion to move it to the end of the agenda.
Just to
Second
refresh
that.
your memory, I came to you several months ago with an informational item in a director's report, talking about some programs that we had qualified through DOT for, one of which was an LED retrofit on our connecting highways, and it was a 90-10 cost share. Because our contributing costs on that were expected to be less than $25,000, it was informational, we just went ahead and executed that document. And what they're doing is on the connecting highways, all the LED lights are nearing the end of their useful life, so the DOT is helping us with paying for those. Subsequent to entering into that agreement and actually getting the numbers back on actual cost, things have changed a little bit. So I wanted Dave to come in and give you guys, so you're not listening to me all the time.
All right, I'll just give you a little bit of a breakdown. I mean, I gave you an idea of what the project's about, just retrofitting or replacement actually of the LED signal modules, the green, yellow, red, the arrows, etc. Pedestrian modules as well, the countdown timers and so forth, which we've seen a lot of them break in the recent months and years, where those countdown features don't work, so we look at that as they've already exceeded their life. But getting down to the numbers, the total grant that we were given by DOT was $245,960. And as Stephen mentioned, that's 90-10 split, meaning 10% city, 90% state on that, and all costs that would exceed that would be 100% city, which that's very common. You get a split, and anything that is in excess of that is at the 100% cost of the agency asking for it. The price that we have that came in were significantly higher than we had expected. The quote actually was $371,645, or $371,645. So doing the math, looking at the quote minus the grant, that's $125,685. The city is already committed to that 10%, which Director Grenier mentioned was $24,596. That means that the city would be responsible for $150,281. So the state cost, just as an overall breakdown, they're responsible for $221,364. We are $150,281. Looking at that from a cost share split, they're still paying 60% and the city's paying 40%. So we really have two options here. We either say, A, we accept this at 60-40 money, or we say no to it, we give up the money, and then we're 100% responsible for that. So I think the answer is somewhat clear, but we need your approval.
Can we submit this out to bid again, or what, I mean, is it contractors are busy? Is this the standard going rate? I guess where did the issue come in? It's higher?
Actually, the way that this is structured is that we are using their maintenance contractor to do
Okay.
this work, which actually is typically cheaper than bidding it out, having to put together plan specification estimate type documents. That would be actually more expensive. I think the other thing to note too that I didn't mention is that we actually asked for more money and they actually gave us less on the grant. And that happens because they have so many communities that they want to give it out to, and they're like, I know you asked for this, but we'll give you that. And so that was actually, I guess, some of the reason too, the disparity. But to address that question, the cost didn't seem unreasonable, I guess you'd say. Some of the mobilization charges and traffic control, maybe a little on the high side, but it's not like we have a lot of choice in the matter.
So it's not the best possible news, but we do have contingency funds to cover this, and having the DOT kick in almost 200, a little over $221,000. It's not the 90-10 we were hoping for, but the work needs to be done, and them kicking in 60% is a whole lot better than nothing.
Alder Burnett?
Steve, when you say we have contingency funds, you mean specific to your area or city?
Specific to our capital improvement program, yes. When we approved the CIP, on the back page, the last page of the CIP, we have pavements, and then we have fees and contingencies in there. There's actually contingency money to account for change orders and materials testing and ancillary services that aren't necessarily in the bid.
So not the same contingency fund as the increased tipping fees for the
No, sir.
flooded, so that's,
No,
okay,
no,
that's
no,
good.
no.
Yeah,
This is
so-
strictly from the CIP.
Okay.
Alder Weary?
Let's do it. What do we need for a motion? Are we approving or
A
recommending?
motion to approve, yes.
Oh, just motion approved because it said that.
Second.
Yeah, motion approved.
All right, we have a motion by Alder Weary, second by Alder Burnett. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 13, consideration of possible action request by Department of Public Works to award 2020 bridge inspection services to Collins Engineers Incorporated for $31,707.72.
Thank
you.
It's not, it's in here. Too much paper tonight.
Did you take a bathroom break before, Jesse?
I did.
Me too.
I cut home.
You did too? I didn't even see you go.
Sneak up on it, really?
I've been sitting tight, man.
Weary's not really
With a big
needed.
bottle in
He's
front
not
of me.
really needed, we don't even know what we need.
Kind of over there.
Jeez.
Okay, that's why.
I feel kind of bad for not missing you.
Okay, we have a periodic inspection need on our bridges. A lot of them are done every other year. We've got a couple of them, 4 bridges that for various reasons have to be inspected every year. So we went out and asked for 2019 and 2020 bridge inspection services. Had a couple of companies quote on that. Collins Engineering came in for the 19 bridge inspections because it was a limited number of bridges. That one was $13,000, something like that. Again, well below that $25,000 limit. Collins has been a good contractor. They've served us extremely well in the past. So we told them, go ahead and get the bridges done in 2019. And their proposal also included 2020 bridge inspection services. The total dollar value of that, labor is $21,866 and 72 cents. Direct expenses, $9,841 for a contract total of $31,707.72, above $25,000. So we are recommending award of the inspection services to Collins Engineering. This is not a bid situation. This is an engineering, so it's professional services, so it's not subject to public bidding. So we definitely want to work with a firm that we have a track history with, and the prices are definitely consistent with what they've had year to year.
Move to approve.
Second. Moved by Alder Burnett, second by Alder Weary. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 14, consideration of possible action request by Base Settlement Investments LLC to defer special assessments for remainder of parcel, or remainder of parent parcel 21-396 for 5 years until sold or developed, whichever is the shortest time.
Okay, that's the second piece of paper that I handed out to you, the smaller of the two. I believe it was at our last meeting, might have been 2 ago, when we talked about the water assessments on Spartan Road. We deferred assessments until sold or developed on the east side of Spartan, and then on the west side, you can see where that subdivision's going in, okay? So all of those lots that are listed Base Settlement Investments LLC, that's the subdivision. And then what shows is 21-8371. That's what's left of the original parcel that's not being developed right now. Make sense so far? Okay. So the developer is okay with paying the assessments on all the subdivision lots, but they're asking for the same consideration on that 21-8371 that you gave to the folks across the road. Defer those assessments until they sell or develop. And they're intending to develop that as soon, you can see how that road just sort of stops in the middle of nowhere. That's the second phase of this development. So as soon as they sell those lots, they're gonna go ahead and develop what we're deferring right now. They just don't wanna pay it up front. They wanna pay it when they develop it.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Alder Weary, second by Alder Burnett. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 15, consideration of possible action regarding the $2 parking citation processing fee required by the new Passport Labs parking citation system, which went live on Monday, July 22nd, 2019.
This, I'm going to.
Did you handle
Yeah.
I can do that.
That's okay.
Just keep sending out.
You talk about it.
Yes. So a quick summary, fun facts for the last 20 years, what our citation rates have been. Just as a baseline, we needed to replace our citation issuance software, hardware, back office management software, all that fun stuff. In the process, I should have brought this to you earlier, but this was all part of the agreement. We knew that these fees were going to be included, but it's more dynamic, live, real time, as opposed to like some delays in our old system and getting data into the system and getting info back. But Passport Labs is our provider for that data, that real-time data transfer. Well, so now when we write a citation, our citations are, just real quick, right now they're $15, $25, $35, $100, $150. I won't go into the details, but of what they're all for. But now with Passport Labs, they require, you pay us $2 for every citation that you write, because it has to go through our software and our system. We understand that. There's cost to doing business, whether you pay big software licensing fees or whatever, they do it this way. So basically, if we don't add the service fee on our the actual citation itself, now to the end user, they don't see a difference. But the revenue to the parking division goes down by $2 each citation. So that is a net effect of minus $47,000 in the operating budget per year in the parking division. So what we're asking for, like I said, we should have asked for it before, it just got delayed in the all the development and details of setting up the system, is that the citation rates, the 15, 25, 35, and 100, and 150, you know, go up to plus $2 on each of them. That's what we're asking for approval for. That's what we recommend. This is for right now. We're still doing the 2020 budget. This is not related to the 2020 budget. This is for right now because we have a new system that we have to deal with and the associated costs.
Chris, when was the last time that we evaluated what the citation rates were?
Every year.
Okay, and you guys are still comfortable with where these rates are at?
Well, and again, this has nothing to do with 2020. We evaluated for the 2019 year, and at that time, what we anticipated was no change was necessary. Now, in the mid-year, because we got hit from our vendor with a service fee, all we're asking for is the pass-through and the service fee, and we will be reevaluating for 2020 as part of our 2020 budget process.
Yeah, we always, historically, I've been here since 1990. Ever since I've been here, we've always recommended rate changes on January 1st, not in the middle of the year. So this is a unique animal.
And because we bring the rates through and you adopt those rates, we can't make a mid-year, even for a service fee pass-through, we can't make that adjustment. We need to come back and ask the council because you've already adopted those rates.
Right. So if we were to approve this, would it be listed on the citation as like $17, or would it be $15 plus $2
Citation says your
processing fee?
citation, and it already does, it says it, because we're issuing them.
Okay.
So the citation says your citation is $15, which includes a $2 service fee. So parking gets $13, not $15 now with the new system. The other $2 goes to the vendor. So what we're asking is that it still be a $50 citation, so the wording, the programming on the wording that's nothing.
We're currently taking the $2 bath because the
Yeah.
vendor hit us with the service fee.
Right. And we don't have a.
And we can't change that until and unless you
So
approve us.
we didn't see that coming though?
No,
We did, like I said.
not when we set the fees at the beginning of the year.
Right, not at the beginning of the year.
Okay.
Because we were still investigating.
Well, we were still negotiating with the vendor on.
Right, because
the
it
services.
had been down to 2 vendors.
It seems steep to me. I mean, $2 for every citation we issue. I understand the technology upgrades and needs and things like that, but man, every single citation we issue in the city, they take. And I'm assuming there's a flat fee. So isn't there something like you can negotiate it down a little bit?
That's what we tried. That's what the negotiations were. We tried to.
And a lot of them are.
Just last night, the History Channel has a program on now. They had the men who built America. Now they've got the food that built America. And they were talking about Harlan Sanders. And Harlan Sanders built the KFC empire on getting 4 cents per piece of chicken. And he didn't actually have restaurants when he started. He licensed mom and pop restaurants all over the United States to sell his chicken. And he got a 4 cent per piece of chicken royalty. So, I mean, these service fees can add up in a hurry. Passport may be making nickels on selling us their software or their hardware, and they're making their actual money on the service fees.
Our last
All how your
citation
business model
issuance, software hardware contract was, we paid, first year was first year was honeymoon, because you get the warranty. Second year, $25,000 a year right up front. That's your licensing fee and service agreement, $35,000 each year after that. Now, on top of that, with the new technology, we weren't real time on getting our data back. This is. So there's value added.
And this is the same.
To this $2 service fee. If you do the math, it wasn't necessarily cheap per citation issued. We issue less than 30,000 parking citations a year, so we were paying close to $2 already.
And this is the same passport that offers the parking app.
Pay by phone on the
They
street.
have, when we implemented the parking app for our meters, they cut us a sweetheart of a deal. They've honored that ever since.
Oh, so these are two separate things, really?
Correct. This
Two
is
different divisions.
Right, the
Yeah.
first service was the app where you could pay for parking.
Sure.
This, what we're talking about now is when you actually issue a parking citation, a parking ticket to somebody, processing that parking ticket.
The hardware and software to issue, and then the software that deals with it in the back for payment and collections and all that stuff. So all those services are paid for by their little, it's not nickel to dime, they're more like dimes, plural, processing fees, but they don't charge you, here's your annual bill for our software and services. No, they're charging by the issuance now.
So we're looking at roughly, you said 30,000 citations a year, so we're looking at $60,000?
Yeah, it's between 20, based on current issuance, it's about a $47,000 per year bath that we take if we don't add on the service fee.
But in the past, we would absorb the cost of the processing system.
We pay it, yeah.
Within the
But
budget.
the costs are up down, so there is still going to be a loss.
Right. Any other questions?
And I do agree with Alder Burnett, the two seems like a lot, not only from a service fee where you're used to paying 50 cents for a credit card fee or something, but for a credit card fee, that's really not bad. Our GovPay system, I think, is $3.
Yeah.
So if somebody were to come in and pay their parking ticket at our front desk, and instead of paying cash, they use a credit card, there's a $3 service fee for that, okay? And $2 looks nasty against a $15 citation. Our citation rates are ridiculously low. Not that I'm advocating bleeding people dry on citations, but comparatively speaking, our citation rates are very, very low.
I just can't stop thinking about chicken now. So-
Sorry about that. I didn't mean to
Parking
distract you.
citation, so yeah.
Steve, when you guys do the annual review of the citations, do you do that internally, or do you bring?
Typically, it's all done internally.
Okay. I think maybe one of the things that I would like to see, I don't want to take a bath on this, especially if we budgeted for it. So I do think that we ought to support the $2 service fee. But in light of the comment that you made, I think one of the other things I'd like to do is get a sense of what the parking citation rates are like in comparable sized cities.
We do that routinely.
Yeah, so maybe I would entertain a motion, or even make the motion, I guess, that we approve the passing on, I guess, of the $2 service fee, but also add on to that motion a request to bring back to the committee in a month or two, when you're preparing to reevaluate those rates for next year, what comparable size cities do. Okay. That's my motion.
Second.
How do we shrink that down?
That's what Steve does.
Yeah, okay. So we have a motion by Alder Johnson, second by Alder Weary. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item number 16, consideration with possible action report of the purchasing manager to request approval to award a one-year contract for snow plowing and snow removal for various Department of Public Works Parking Division, Green Bay Police Department parking lots to Express Excavation for the estimated amount of $44,500 per year. This contract will include up to 5 one-year renewal options by mutual agreements.
I think I should have a drum roll.
We should have a cot, at least a recliner.
I was actually going to ask Steve to consider moving me up in the agenda until I saw all these people from the public walk in, and I said, I'm not going to jump in front of those, so it is what it is.
Well, thank you.
Yes. This is an annual contract. We just, the previous contract for 5 years expired, and Express Excavating fulfilled the last 2 years of that contract. Last time we bid this out, we had 2 bidders. It was Express Excavating and Gerzak went out of business. So 2 years ago, Express fulfilled the last 2 years of that contract, and they were the only bidder this year. And I know that Chris worked with my staff in reviewing the proposals. The fees are in line with where they've been in the past. They're up slightly, but not significantly. And both police, these lots are primarily parking division parking lots and also some parking lots for the police department. And both of those departments were in agreement with this award. So that is the request in front of you today.
I'll tell you, I used to own a snow removal company, and these rates are what we used to charge 10 years ago, so. So I would concur they're in alignment.
Yeah.
Move to approve. Or your rates are really high back then.
I got enough work, I don't know.
Rough crowd.
I'm willing to pay it.
Rough crowd.
This is why you competitively bid. Thank you for proving my point.
There you go.
All right, did we have a motion?
Yep, move to approve. Second.
We have a motion by Alder Weary, second by Alder Burnett. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
All right, good night.
Oh, right.
17. Report of actions taken by Department of Public Works. Item A, award of contracts. 1, to approve to award contract payment 5-19 North Webster Avenue. Reconstruction's below responsive bidder, PTS Contractors Incorporated, in the amount of $1,045,016. Can we lump these together?
If you wish.
I wish. Item 2, to approve award contract payment 6-19 Sitka Street and Superior Road reconstruction to low responsive bidder. B, grant, let's just hold it right there. Item A.
Well, actually, because I'm just reporting out,
Take them all?
no problem taking both.
All right, B, granting of licenses. Number 1, sidewalk builder, A, Anderson.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right.
We're still on the other
I'm
one.
holding up, all right.
Okay.
confused.
Just to show you what a month can do. In your packet, we provided the bid summary for 5-19 North Webster Avenue reconstruction. That takes us from the East River Bridge down to Main Street, so it's about a block and a half, about 2 blocks. Full reconstruct of that street, 3 bidders. Everybody came in basically under a blanket. That's awesome bidding. $1,045,016 to PTS, good contractor, and the number was great. We loved it. So that's being coordinated along with the major project on North Webster, so it'll all finish up around the same time. So we're happy with that. A month later, we bid out Sitka Street and Superior Road. That's all kind of been hanging as we've been going forward and getting the plans for the subdivisions over there, and we needed to get that pond going before we could do anything. The pond is about 60% constructed right now, so it was time to put the bid out for Sitka and Superior. That is about a little over a half mile worth of road. Now, it's rural in nature now. It's not the pavement's being reconstructed, but the utilities are basically new utilities. There's not a whole lot out there right now. Some water main, but no sanitary, no storm in Sitka. So about a 4 times larger project, and it came in at $2.5 million. The 2 low bidders advance at $2,524,722.45, and Peters Concrete came in at $2,590,714.39. That's only about $66,000 different on a $2.5 million contract. What that tells me, how close the bids were together and how many bidders we had. Plans and specs were well crafted, easy to understand, and clear to the contractor. Also tells me that Dorner Incorporated has a lot of work in their inventory, and if they were taking this one, they were going to make some money on it. Very, very good prices. I wish I had 8 projects to bid right now if that's the numbers we're getting for fall construction, and that's what we're seeing. We were hearing that from contractors that they were looking for jobs for the fall. So what this is going to do is it's going to finish advances. Not only finish off their fall season, we're trying something new with this one. We're going to finish so late that we're not going to be able to pave it. So they'll get all the utility work done this fall. They're going to put a temporary asphalt pavement, only 1.5 inches of asphalt, just to get us through the winter. Bare minimum so it doesn't crack up and turn to junk on us. Then they'll come back in the spring, put the curb and gutter in, and finish paving and do the restoration behind the curb and gutter. So it's a little bit different than what we've tried in the past, and I want to see how it turns out. to see if we might have, instead of trying to bid everything early in the spring and we're competing with every other municipality, maybe we ought to take a look at phased construction over a winter where and when we can. So this is an excellent project for us to experiment with. Again, the only thing I was worried about was leaving it over a winter in gravel. So this temp paving is gonna work out because it's also on it's a subsidiary route, but it is on a busing route. So we gotta make sure we're taking it to the school district. So just giving you guys a heads up on what we did for award some of these things.
Motion to receive and place on file?
Yep.
Second. Motion by Alder Wery, second by Alder Burnett. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item B, granting of licenses. Number 1, sidewalk builder. A, Anderson Basement Repair Incorporated. B, Brian McEwen Concrete LLC. And C, C.D. Smith Construction.
I believe all these guys have held licenses in the past, so we've gone ahead and awarded those licenses as well. Huge uptick in people getting sidewalk builders licenses this year. I don't know what's going on, but we've got companies coming in, getting them that have never gotten them before. So I'd like to think that bodes well for construction in the area.
Motion to receive and place on file?
Another receive. Yes.
Second.
Motion by Alder Wery, second by Alder Burnett. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. The information on one director's report on recent activities of the Public Works Department.
Very, very short. Staff is extremely busy in the budget process right now. So that's what's taken up a lot of our time. The weather over the past couple of weeks has not helped us. We've got guys who are working a lot of overtime trying to keep up with either storm cleanup or managing storms as they're happening. So my appreciation to staff for the fantastic work they've been doing.
And chicken. I would entertain a motion to receive and place on file.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Alder Burnett, second by Alder Wery. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Jim, you were talking about setting up that special meeting? Were you trying to do that now, or?
I will get in touch with Alder
Okay.
Nicholson in the
Got it.
morning.
All right, the next Improvement Services Committee meeting is scheduled for September 11th, 2019, unless a special meeting is scheduled. Entertain a motion for adjournment. Okay. Motion by Weary, second by Burnett. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.